Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another entertaining evening of intense racing action in the one and only series you all know and love on Wednesday evenings. That's right, Race by Wire is back once again and we are here to continue the story of the Porsche Cup by Energise Virtual Solutions Season 1 as brought to you on the Premier Sim Racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. Today marks the conclusion of the first half of the season, and what a way to do it by making a way to Italy for a double header. Indeed, we close the chapter of the first half of the season in Italy and we open up chapter number 2 of the second half of the season as well in this country, and the way we close the first half of the season is with a classic. Indeed, arguably one of the oldest circuits in the world, having been opened in 1922. We are here at the Autodromo Nazionale Monza, or the Monza Grand Prix circuit as it's more commonly referred to. A circuit that arguably is a true power circuit as far as they come. 3.6 miles in length, the best part of 11 corners, extended straights, chicanes connect them together, and heavy braking zones in between. And what it means for our drivers here, it's all about full throttle every step of the way, but also being the bravest of the brakers and being the latest on the brakes in order to be able to take victory. There's nothing quite like going racing at Monza because slipstream and cornering ability go hand in hand, as well as the ability to set up the car with the minimum possible amount of downforce to carry as much speed down its extended straight. When we come to the end of the racing today, who exactly will have mastered the need for speed out of our guys and girls making the way to the grid? Well, that's what we're here to find out in this live broadcast from circuit side. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you all to this live broadcast as we get ready to go racing today. And you can catch this broadcast in one and only place on YouTube, of course. Here's at youtube.com and search for Race by Wire or RBW, and you can be tuning in there and catching all the racing as it unfolds week in, week out. And if you are tuning in right now, don't be shy. Feel free to say hi and let us know how you're doing today in the YouTube chat. And well, if you've got a bit of a frown, because it is Wednesday, of course, and that does typically mean that it is hump day, as we refer to it in the midway point of the week. Well, let's turn that frown upside down into a good old smile. Indeed, I think you're going to be smiling after plenty of racing today, because if our previous rounds are anything to go by, well, this championship is definitely keeping us guessing every step of the way, whether it be in our gold or silver drivers' championships. In the comments you have myself, my name is Paul Walsh, and I'll be bringing you all your racing action as it unfolds over the course of today, and also the entirety of the season. And speaking of our schedule for today, times in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time UTC, what we can see is in approximately what will be 13 minutes time, we're making our way into our qualifying session, 10 minutes in duration as always, after which we'll then be making our way straight to the grid for what will be the first of our 2 races, the 12-minute sprint at 10 past 8 this evening. And indeed, that race is going to absolutely fly by, and then we'll be taking a brief breather before returning to the grid at just around approximately 25 past 8 this evening for the 30-minute feature race. Well, we'll up the time duration by 2.5 times, but given that it's still a sprint race technically, we're not expecting any pit stops, and it will be all flat out, all in, no holds barred back, all the way to the finish line there. And well, that's going to wrap up the first half of our season. But indeed, to get to the end of the first half of the season, we need to get through these 2 races, and what a pair of races we have in store. But what we also need to do to set the scene very nicely is give you a recap of how things have proceeded so far and what could be lying in wait today. Well, we start off then by taking a look back at our calendar. Last time out in round number 4, we were in the US of A once again for the second of our 4 visits to the country, and on the North American continent, we saw our drivers taking on the Michelin Raceway at Road Atlanta. There in the US state of Georgia, it really was a rollercoaster ride, not just because of the circuit with its undulations, but also the way the championships played out in our battling classes. Now, in the gold class, the shares of the spoils were between 2 drivers in particular. Indeed, championship leader Oscar Berntsson was out of his comfort zone. However, he was able to achieve a very nice score with the win in the sprint and the run-up spot in the feature race after taking the pole position as well in a qualifying session that was absolutely tight. And when I say that, keep in mind, in qualifying last time out, from second all the way through to 22nd, they were all separated by less than a second. And meanwhile, our pole man took pole position by almost 3 tenths. He really was the outlier in the form of Berntsson. However, he was not the outlier in the races because Kim Andre Bjørklund was able to keep him honest in the sprint, and in the feature race, it was Bjørklund who was able to get the upper hand, and Berntsson was not able to chase him down. However, many of you may remember in the post-round interview with Oscar Berntsson, what he said to us there was the fact that Road Atlanta was a bogey circuit for him, and he much more fancies his chances here today at Monza. But if that's the quick headlines of the gold class, what about in the silver class? Well, What about the silver class? It was absolutely crazy in the fact we saw some incredible performances. We also saw heartbreak. Huge heartbreak for none other than Emma Ruiu, who in the end, leading the sprint race, ran low on fuel on the final lap and had to withdraw from the lead of the race, and in the end finished a long way down the order, giving Adam Klanvik the opportunity to take the lead when he'd spent the whole race battling with Aaron Herbert and Mats Strand for second place. So Klanvik returned to the top, and in all craziness of what was the feature race, what we got to see in the end was Aaron Herbert somehow found a way into lead, and much of that was aided perhaps by Mats Strand's rallycross adventure into turn number 1 in the early stage of the race, but he had to hold on, and he held on for an incredibly long time, and indeed fought as well the goal drives to try and take the overall win. Albeit in the end, Aaron Herbert did have to settle for not winning the overall race, but definitely taking his first win in the silver class, and he earned it in a very impressive way. But on top of that as well, we also got to see plenty of battles further down the field, and it means the silver class has been completely shuffled as we make our way into today on the 28th of January 2026. And after this round, of course, we'll be making our way to neighbouring Imola, or the Autodromo International Enzo Dino Ferrari as it's known in full, to commence the second half of the season in round number 6. So indeed, right now, we really have got the rounds coming thick and fast. But as we continue our way into recapping the story, well, we're giving you a recap of who performed well perhaps last time out, but what about the standings themselves? Well, here we go. We start off with the Gold Drivers' Championship standings, and what we can see here is that Oscar Berntsson leads the way still for Ice Cold Racing, powered by Maxim Racing, by 18 points. However, a new name has moved into second, and that is Kim Andre Bjørklund, the Sim Racing Norway driver, who's now moved ahead of Mats Strand, with Bjørklund surpassing Berntsson's point haul at what was Road Atlanta by a single point. Now, Mats Strand, to be fair to him, he was no slouch at Road Atlanta. However, whereas the top two were really able to run away with proceedings in both races, respectively, meanwhile, for Mats Strand, it was all about the thick of the fighting. And in the end, a fourth and a fifth, he couldn't quite make it onto the podium in either of the races, but he definitely earned his points the hard way, and that's why he's still well in contention here for the championship. Richard Simler holding fourth there for DCW Racing Blue. He had a reasonable set of performances in both races, albeit couldn't quite make his way all the way forward in both. However, I think he'll still be happy with the fact that he netted himself 27 points and therefore has kept himself comfortably in fourth place, and a good margin too, because he is now the best part of 31 points ahead of Josh Boot, with the Atomic Esports driver once again demonstrating his ability to get right in the fight of the top 5 in both races at Road Atlanta. But the Atomic Esports driver right now knows that Andy Jones is only a point behind. Albeit Jones having a difficult day at the office last time out and therefore falling back to 6th place. He's only ahead of Mikey Pollard by a single point, and for Mikey Pollard, the woes continue with a miserable day of racing at Road Atlanta, and he'll definitely be locking that in as a drop score for this season for Film BIL. Joe Newman, meanwhile, sits in 8th place, and while the Empire Motorsport driver always delivers plenty of entertainment, however, no points scored of him last time out at Road Atlanta, unfortunately. But meanwhile, Nick Clemens has closed the gap, now only 7 points behind there for iRace Esports with a reasonable haul points, and Daniel Shilcock completes your top 10 only a point further behind, but he is the best part there of 9 points ahead of Simon Bamber. Now, sadly, we're not expecting Simon Bamber on the grid today due to a technical issue, so therefore he's not made the trip to Italy. We hope the Effect Simulations driver is able to catch up in a week's time at Imola, because it's not quite the same if we don't get to see him on the grid, particularly when he picked up his best set of performances of the season last time out. And then we see Paddy Falconer there for DCW Racing Blue ahead of the sister car from the red team of Gavin Petty, with Casper Tunstead only behind based on result countback, and it's Ryan Davies, Jack Atkinson, Andy Archer and Helder Gonzalez who complete the Gold Drivers' Championship standings. As for the silver class, meanwhile, well, if we've got names at the front of the gold class running away, in the silver class, forget about all that. Because what we can see here is the fact the silver class is completely open once again. And the big headline we didn't tell you about when we recapped where we are in the world so far is the fact that we've had a change of championship leader. But on top of that as well, the way it happened, you couldn't make it up. Glenn Grondeliers was the man leading going to Road Atlanta. Emerging from it, he's now moved to second because it was a nightmare day for Glenn. It could not have gone any worse if he tried. We're 6th place in qualifying and then 15th in race number 1, 17th in race number 2, whereby instance in both races early on really ruptured any opportunity for him to be able to score some solid points. Along came Chris Halsoy then. The Track 6 Racing drivers moved up to the top by 5 points. But in a twist of fate, he's not been feeling too well today and therefore he's not going to be on the grid. So suddenly, the silver class now needs to look to Grondeliers to see if he can recover for Pegasus Sim Racing, or does it look to Adam Klanvik, the Ice Cold Racing powered by Max Sim Racing driver, who's only a point behind in 3rd place and right now, in theory, should be on the charge. But I say in theory because you'd say that about Emma Ruiu, but the fuel miscalculation in the sprint race massively changed the dynamic for the ERR by the organisation driver at Road Atlanta, and then you'd say the same perhaps to Aaron Herbert, because the door was open for him and he was able to secure that first silver win in the feature race, and suddenly he's moved to 5th 5th place for Drive Lounge Racing, capitalise on the opportunities that everyone else has given him. But what about Matt Strand, only a point behind him? And indeed, the HRT Nexus Racing driver, many will be saying to him, the team have probably said to Matt between last week and now, Matt, you need to stop making these mistakes, because if Matt Strand had not had that off at turn number 1 in the feature race at Road Atlanta, could he have scored all the points and potentially right now be running inside what would be the top 4? Well, there's the big what-if questions there, and only the way to address them is to focus on the here and now. Ollie Pimley, he's a further 5 points behind, and then you finally do have a bit of a gap there by 14 points to Alan McCain for RS Esports, who really earmarks the no man's land before you transition into the second half of the field. Chris Cole leads it on 61 points in 9th place ahead of David Biggerdike, who rounds off the top 10. Behind the DCW Racing Red driver, it's then a further 2 points to Yentl drives Burton Torves, who really found himself in the mid-pack all the way through the racing at Road Atlanta, and the same could be said for Mark Collicott, although he did come on strong as the racing went on for DCW Racing Red. It was a difficult day for Film BIL.NO in the silver class, with Neil Braun not having a happy day at the office, nor was it a decent day for Blue Mercure Racing's Alexandra Longeau, and then in 15th place Ben Sieber there, also finding himself right in the thick of the fighting further back. Indeed, he had a good tussle with his teammate of none other Matty Wild, where both of them enjoyed the battles in both races together. Nicholas Gronstrom sits in 17th place with no points last time out. The Peak Sim Racing driver ahead of Rob Van Hoot, with Dave Van Dam not on the grid, but back today from what I'm hearing in my ear, which is absolutely fantastic. The GT3 Dave driver back after his brilliant debut at Le Mans. And then we do see Timo Gertner in 20th place, ahead of Fabrizio Penzo, who won't be on the grid today due to personal circumstances, unfortunately. And Mirzam Yutsupov there completes the Silver Class Championship standings. But as for our host circuit then, that's a recap of the story. What a set of stories we've got coming into this round. And here is our host circuit, the Monza Grand Prix circuit, located near the city of Monza in the Lombardy region of Italy. A big thank you to iRacing.com, not just for the brilliant simulator, but the fantastic track mats that come with it. 11 corners, absolutely steeped in history. A circuit that has gradually evolved over the years to the current layout. But I'll tell you one thing, what hasn't evolved away is the characteristics. Long straights, sweeping bends, and chicanes. Put it all together here, and it really is a circuit about throttle and brake in equal measure. And the aim of the game around here is to be the leader and break away where you can, or if not, use the slipstream to your advantage and be ready to go even later than everyone else on the brakes. And with these Porsche Cup cars, these new 992.2 machines, of course, they do have the anti-lock braking system, which will take away the horrendous lockups that we've seen previously in the previous iteration of the car, but it also means we may see some overconfidence on those who break the way into the chicanes. Our drivers will roar the way down towards turn 1 and 2 at the Prima Variante chicane, or what is the Rettifilio chicane, and as they make their way out, it's through the sweeping right-hander of Curva Pisano, while they make their way into the Seconda Variante chicane or Regia. As they make their way through the slightly faster turns 4 and 5, then it's going to be the run into Lesmos at turns 6 and 7, and as they exit out, they'll make their way down the Seroglio straight, or Curva del Seroglio, in reference to the fact it has a kink in it, but as they make their way into the third and final chicane, it is going to be the Ascari chicane at turns 8, 9 and 10, the medium speed one, where it's all about setting up your run through turn number 9 to eject yourself out full throttle through 10, and all the way down towards the Parabolica Curva, turn number 11, or Curva Parabolica as it's known in local language, and as our drivers make the way to a late apex there at the medium speed corner, it is then out, full throttle, all the way to the start-finish line to go on to the next lap, alternatively to see that checker flag. A quick reminder of the rules then before we go racing. In terms of setups, this is an open setup series where drivers providing their own setups ahead of each and every race session. Qualifying wise, it's a closed format, which means that our drivers take to an isolated instance of the circuit, in which in the 10 minutes they are able to put those qualifying laps together. They have their out lap plus 4 flying laps available, they get no more, and they must deliver their qualifying laps within the 10-minute window. If we get to 10 minutes complete and they haven't, we immediately end the session there, and any overtime is not permitted. Our driver's best lap up to that point will be taken as their qualifying lap. As for the races, well, the grid for the sprint shall be set based on qualifying, that's a given, but when we go to the feature race, of course, it'll be based on the results of the sprint, but we will invert the top 10 finishing positions from the sprint race. What that means is the winner of the sprint, they start 10th on the grid for the feature, and we work our way downwards to the 10th place finisher, who starts on pole for the purposes of the sprint, and then the 11th place finishers and downwards from the sprint race, you guessed it right, that's exactly where they start for the feature race grid. Now, our races will commence via standing start. It's a tradition of Porsche Cup racing, and should drivers get to 17 instant points during either of the races, they will be receiving a drive-through penalty for their misdemeanors. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's make our way back to circuit side, and as we do, of course, we need to give a special mention to our title sponsor for this season, Energise Virtual Solutions. Now, Energise Virtual Solutions, or EVS, is a software consultancy whose aim is to meet the demands of bespoke product services and development. Whether it's a completely new project or consultancy assistance on existing projects, Energise Virtual Solutions will be working alongside you every step of the way. And if you'd like to know more about them, do head to energisevirtual.com today to find out how they can help help you on your ongoing projects. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, well, let's project our way back to circuit side, and as we do, well, who is looking quick, who's looking slow, and who's looking somewhere in between? And well, not too many drivers have made the journey to Italy today, not as many perhaps as what we saw at Road Atlanta, but understandable here, this might be a drop rounds for some drivers. That's why we do have drop scores, because our drivers do have personal lives that they need to manage just as much as their league racing. But either way, as we do see Adam Klamvik making his way around, well, currently he's the 6th fastest overall, 2nd fastest of the silver drivers, with our silver provisional leader at this time being none other than Emery, as we briefly lose Klamvik to the ether and then he rematerializes. But what about in the gold class? Where's Oscar Berntsson, who's currently the fastest of everybody on a 46.107. We don't know if that's been done with some slipstream or not, but I'll tell you one thing right now, Berntsson away said he'll feel confident here at Monza, and he's definitely shown that confidence immediately. But we have got an absolutely stacked grid here in terms of names in both classes, and as we always say, when we're lacking in quantity, we do not lack with quality of our drivers. And well, that's going to be seen here as we now make our way in towards the qualifying session, ladies and gentlemen. 10 minutes, 4 flying laps. Who's going to put it on pole? Let's find out. And so qualifying begins to tick away, and who is going to be up right at the front of the field, because qualifying is going to be absolutely critical here, some would say. Well, here we go then, and well, as Ben Sieber gets ready to make his way out the pit lane, indeed several drivers will do so. The setups will be going on, and well, how do you set up a car for success here at Monza? The short story is you take all the rear wing off it as much as possible. Remember, these Porsche Cup cars, they do not have too much air on them. The main aerodynamic feature they have is essentially the huge rear wing. Beyond that, well, they do have some slight aerodynamic refinements around the front bumper and also the rear, but otherwise it's very close to essentially the Porsche 992.2 GT3 Cup road car, albeit all the interior has been stripped out for weight reduction and to make it safe for racing purposes, and that's how you do get to a Porsche Cup racing machine. Now, as we do see Patrick Falconer make his way through, what else can you do here to get a good lap at Monza? Well, nobody will be able to use slipstream in qualifying because it is a closed qualifying session. That means we are in the great equalizer space here where everyone has to do it under their own volition, so we really will see who are the masters and mistresses of the Monza Grand Prix circuit before you add that bonus factor of the slipstream. However, what you can do to try and set up the car even more for success around here is you can take the rear wing off the car and you can also look at messing around with the ride height. We do have several chicanes here, and the idea is you want to be as quick as possible in the direction change. You want to be able to go from right to left through our opening 2 corners, for example, and Ascari as well. You do want to go left, right, left as quickly as you can. But there is a trade-off. The more you raise the rear of the car versus the front of the car, the more unstable you make the car, and therefore the more rotation you give it. However, when you take the rear wing off the car by default, you also make it so that the rear is less planted. So therefore the car wants to lean more forward as you're making your way through the corners, and the rear of the car, which is where most of the mass is located by default, because these Porsche Cup cars are rear engine, rear wheel drive, the rear will swing like a pendulum, and you need to try and tame that weight. But how you tame it is by essentially using the throttle pedal, and that's what these cars are all about. You drive them at using the throttle pedal as much as you do with your application of the brakes. One other thing you can do as well, on the brake bias, you can push the brake bias as rearward as you want to. The idea being that as you come off the brakes in towards the chicanes, the rear brakes will unlock more aggressively than the front brakes, and therefore it will naturally cause the rear of the car to kick round under braking. But it always comes to a drawback, which is the more rotation you instill in a car that naturally wants to oversteer, the higher the risk you have of going for a spin. And it is that balance which is what our drivers need to try and achieve here, as well as stripping all the fuel out of the car. And another intriguing thing, of course, is the fact these Porsche Cup cars, where is the fuel tank? It's in the front. It's not at the rear of the car. So therefore, these cars with limited fuel in them will feel very light over the front end, and therefore it really feels though all the weight is behind the driver. In the race, particularly in the feature race with the slightly heavier fuel tanks, what we'll see is actually the aero balance of the car will naturally shift from the front towards the rear as time goes on with the weight distribution. And that means that the cars you see here in qualifying are definitely going to be much quicker and much more aggressive than they are under race conditions, particularly when we do get to that feature race. But right now, as we look to David Biggerdike making his way on around, another one of our DCW racing drivers, we have one onto their first flying laps here as they make the way through. And And it looks like everyone at this very time, at least, all looking compact and composed. But something tells me that this is the calm before the proverbial storm. And our drivers will right now be looking to get an initial banker lap on the board. They do have the 4 laps. Now, will they be able to squeeze the ball in there? As Biggerite demonstrates what you can do at Ascari to cut his way over the turn 10 apex, trying to avoid the sausage as much as possible there. Get it wrong, and you put the car up into 2 wheels. You can even roll the car out that corner. Not that I'd encourage him or anyone to do so, to be fair. Well, we will see. But many will have their eyes on this man, Aaron Herbert, in the Duckham's livery machine as he weaves his way from left to right once again. And well, the reason for that is he wants a bit more tyre temperature as he decides to run the car all the way to the outside there, going in towards Parabolica Curve. That's going to cost him time, but the idea is he wants to open up the corner as much as possible. And you know what? We're going to open up an on-board lap with him then as he takes us around for a flying lap here at the Monza Grand Prix circuit. So making his way down towards turn 1, the drive lane range in number 3, and as he makes his way towards that braking zone, well, 169 miles an hour. He'll break his way there. What will be the 150 metre board all the way down from top gear to first, and clatters his way over the first apex, then takes a little sniff of the second, giving him some extra rotation, and now flat out he'll go immediately all the way through Coversano and up towards turns 4 and 5. Here it's about gentle steering application. You don't want to apply too much for the simple reason the more steering you apply, the more speed you scrub on the outside tyres, and therefore you lose a mile an hour or 2 by the time you get to the next braking zone. But looks to his right for the marshal's post. There he goes, braking about 120 metres a quarter apex, down to second gear, throws the car at the turn 4 apex, bounces out, runs it out of the corners, and now up towards turn number 6, in towards the first of 2 Lesbos. Hard on the brakes, nice and late there. 50 metre mark from the corner, albeit there's no brake marker, you do it on memory. Now looking to his left-hand side for the 50 metre board. That's his brake marker for turn number 7, Lesmo number 2. Comes on through there, make sure not to touch the apex curb because otherwise it'll kick the car into understeer. And as he now makes his way down the Serraglio straight through that gentle curve as he'll get ready to go under the bridge, which denotes the oval, which is no longer used. And as he gets ready to go into Ascari, looking to his right-hand side for his 108 metre mark, and he brakes at the marshal's post, coming all the way down to third gear, nice and high on the apex curb, and we briefly lose Aaron Herbert, ladies and gentlemen. We're not quite sure what's happened to him, and well, he's disappeared off into ether. There he is again. So we've had the onboard lap slightly disrupted there. We're back with the drive lounge racing driving out. Apologies for that. And as he makes his way down from Ascari in towards Parabolica Curve, onto the brakes he goes here in towards turn number 11, down to third gear, takes a nice early apex there, hoping that essentially the rear of the car will come round and force him round the corner, and will confidence aplenty here from the British driver as he brings it over to the right. I think he feels though he's done a very good lap here as he shortens the run to the timing line, and the answer is going to be for him for his first fine lap on the board. Well, it's not a valid lap, and I do believe the reason it's been invalidated was because of his brief excursion off the road at the exit of turn number 5, coming out of the Regia chicane. He put 2 wheels beyond the exit curb and onto the gravel, and it's invalidated the lap, and Aaron Herbert there completely makes a mistake under braking in towards turns 1 and 2, makes his way over the sleeping policeman, and for Herbert, well, he's got to slow down, he'll burn that slowdown penalty, but now he knows he's only got one more chance if he can squeeze it in the nick of time. He's going to have to go some here, otherwise he'll be starting from the back of the field. Dave Van Dam as well, he's yet to get a lap on the board. I wonder if he's deciding to start from the back and focus on essentially making gradual progress. We know wherever he's going to start, he'll be looking forward as Aaron Herbert parks up. I think Herbert is going to be starting from what will be the back of the field. I don't think he's got any more time available, and he's realised it. Meanwhile, Oscar Berntsson, currently the fastest driver out there, and well, currently on provisional pole overall and in gold by 4 tenths over Emma Ryu. And well, number 35 driver here looking very good, but so is the 33 of Ryu, EFF by the organisation, ERR by the organisation, I should say. And well, their driver right now demonstrating they're here not to lose today. But of course, what held Ryu back at Road Atlanta was a fuel tank issue. Here today, well, if she can absolutely nail that, I can imagine that if it all goes well in the sprint race, this could be an attempt at a 2 for 2 here. And well, somebody at some point's got to take control of the Silver Class Championship because nobody seems to want to at the moment. It seems to be the most cursed position in the whole series. It's been the leader of the Silver Class Championship, but someone's going to need to take it because otherwise we won't be awarding anybody the winners' medals come the end of the season. He makes his way up through, well, she makes her way through turns 9 and 10. Let's not misgender. Making her way down towards turn number 11 now, and Ryu here currently on an even fast lap. In fact, the fastest in the middle sector at the moment, even versus Berntsson's time. So Ryu here really cooking something up special as Adam Klamvik improves to 4th place. Patrick Falconer moves up to 3rd. Falconer here right now. Well, I do believe the DCW racing team have taken a different approach here today, which is they're coming with a bit less practice compared to previous rounds. So I think they're all very comfortable with the Monza circuit and are just relaxing that they made the way to the grid. And it seems to be working out very nicely for Falconer. Ryu does not improve, comes very close to improving, trying to move that pole time in the silver class even higher, but not quite that time around, missing out by 300s. Meanwhile, further on down, are there any surprises perhaps? Mats Strand, he's the biggest surprise here as he goes on to his final flying lap. He's currently down in 11th place as Kim Andre Bjørklund improves to 6th, and Bjørklund as well, 47.227. It's decent, but it's not the best out there for Bjørklund, and given the fact that right now he is the best part of 6.5 tenths off of Bernttsson's time, is this the day where Oscar Berntsson really tries to pull away in the Gold Championship? It may just be, but right now Mats Strand as well, down in 11th place here. If he can't find something on this lap, it's going to be his lowest qualifying position of the season so far, and that's not good news for the third place driver in the championship. He'll be hoping for a bit more here, but right now this seems to just be a championship that's going the way of his teammate and indeed some of his rivals rather than himself. But we'll see what he can deliver here towards the very end of the lap as Jack Atkinson's had to tow to the pits for an off. I do believe he's been involved in a bit of an incident. I've seen him go to the barrier elsewhere on circuit, but Strand makes his way down now towards Parabolica curve for 1 corner and 1 minute between him and the end of his qualifying session, and we will see what's to happen at the very end of this. He makes his way onto the brakes here, looking very composed, looking very smooth to be fair, and there's something to be said about smooth driving. It may not look the quickest because it's not as aggressive, the car's not shaking around left, right and centre, but indeed smooth laps do very well as Oscar Berntsson shows that off camera of a 46.480, puts an extra 10 from the rest of the field. Meanwhile Strand comes to time in line, he goes to 6th then on his final flying lap. Good effort from Strand, a 47.219. Richard Simnor slightly improves to a 47.029. Adam Clement just behind him. Josh Boot as well slightly improving towards the very end of the session. He parks up. Ben Steve across the line, he improves to 19th overall and was in the silver class 10th place. So they're all finding little bits of time as Kim Andre Bjørklund with 15 seconds left on the clock makes his way out the final quarter. What's it going to be here? Can he get himself inside the top 5? And the answer is going to be as he runs it all the way to the wall. No, it's not an improvement for Bjørklund. It was a valid lap, but unfortunately, 7th's the best he could do. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is qualifying complete as we now make our way to the grid for the first of our 2 races here at the Monza Grand Prix circuit. And as they make the way onto the grid, this is all the lineup for the sprint race of round number 5. Pole position goes to Oscar Berntsson for Ice Cold Racing, powered by Maxim Racing. And what a pole position margin. His greatest of the season so far. 4.5 tenths over the silver pole sitter of Emma Ryu. The Italian driver here are really not playing around today. Behind the home hero, it's then going to be Patrick Falcon, who starts third for DCW Racing Blue, ahead of his teammate of Richard Simnor. They've come on very strong in qualifying, no doubt about it. Adam Klanvik starts 5th there for Ice Cold Racing, powered by Maxim Racing, 2nd of the silvers. The Swede then followed up by the Norwegian of Mats Strand for Ice Cold Racing, his teammate. Behind, Kim Andre Bjørklund, fellow countryman there for Sim Racing Norway, starts 7th on the full far of the grid, just ahead of Andy Jones for DCW Racing Blue, who missed out on 7th place by only half a tenth. From the Welshman to the 2 Brits, it's then going to be Ryan Davies, who starts 9th for Empire Motorsport, and Dave Biggerdite, who rounds off your top 10 there, 3rd of your silvers for DCW Racing Red. Outside the top 10, in 11th, it's Chris Cole, once again just missing out in the top 10 in qualifying, but we know he's got a lot of pace in the race. Then we'll have Josh Boot starting 12th behind him for Atomic Esports, and behind them, it'll then be the pairing on row number 7 of Glenn Gondoliers for Pegasus Sim Racing, and Jack Atkinson for Race by Wire. Ghost Quadra Esports is Ollie Pimley, starts 15th ahead of Alan McCain for Iris Esports, and then it'll be a Rob Van Hoot who starts 17th, the Belgian driver, just ahead of none other than Mirzam Yutsupov, and then we'll have behind the privateer Ben Stieber for DCW Racing Yellow, and B1 Sim Racing's Alexandra Longjou. And then from the Frenchman, it is then going to be the final full rider grid in the hands of Matty Wild for DCW Racing Yellow and Drive Lounge Racing's Aaron Herbert. And last but not least, with no valid lap set like Herbert, it's going to be Dave Van Dam. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the GT3 Dave driver brings up the rear of the field, but will he be at the rear of it come the end of it? We're about to find out because the lights are going on. It's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's firing lights! And it's lights and away we go here for race number 1 at Monza in round 5 of the Porsche Cup Championship. And as they roar the way down towards turn number 1, a decent start for Oscar Berntsson as he gets a complete focus on there. And now we look to the much bigger picture as they head down towards that braking zone. And once they go on in, it's going to be a little bit of bump and grind between several drivers on the braking here. But they all survive the opening couple of corners. We will see. No, someone's got around. It's one of your second row starters who's got around. And the whole field has to thread the needle here. And I think, oh no, that's not going to quite work out at all. As in the end, Richard Simnor does get it turned around, but it was Simnor who was the biggest spinner there and the biggest loser of it, or one of the biggest losers of it, no doubt about it. Dave Biggerdike as well has lost out massively, and suddenly that's completely opened up proceedings in the pack because they make the way up towards the next chicane. Well, Matty Wild as well has got some damage to the car and a yellow flag for track limit. As we look a bit further back, there's Wild battling side by side here with Rob Van Hoot, who trying to go around the outside of Wild in towards the second chicanes, not going to quite find it. And meanwhile, Kim Andre Bjørklund side by side here with Jack Atkinson, and Bjørklund's lost out massively as well. I think he got caught up in the traffic jam. We will get a replay replay of it when we can, ladies and gentlemen, to explain what exactly happened. But right now, all these drivers pushing onwards here, and as they do, well, right now, Bjørklund still looking for opportunities. Ollie Pimley fights hard with Van Hoot. In the end, they go door to door. And here comes Bjørklund. Better run off of Lesbo too. It's going to be 3 wide here, heading down the Serglio curve. And as they come very close to each other through the kink, all right, now they space out as much as possible. Will Bjørklund be able to clear them before the braking zone? The answer is going to be he's going to clear one at least. Van Hoot still on the inside. But in the end, the camera deceives us. So Van Hoot gets it wrong at the apex, takes too much curb. And in the end, has to pull the car to left-hand side with fear of causing a domino effect. But he's able to survive it. And Alexandre Longju right now all over the back of him as they make their way down towards Parabolica curve. But from the back of the field, we come to the front of it. Mats Strand here. Look at how many places Strand has gained. He's gone from 6th to 4th very quickly. And Josh Boot and Ryan Davies are there as well. Ryan Davies, the Empire Motorsport driver here, looking good as he goes on to a second lap. But you see now, this is all about the slipstream at this point. All the drivers jostling left, right and centre, wanting to be in the draft, but also figure out the potential moves. Boot trying to say to Davies, don't fight me, just stay behind me for now. I think I can catch up to Strand. And well, there'll be a degree of patience that's needed between these drivers. They need to work together essentially in the draft, at least in the early stage of the race. Otherwise, they'll consign themselves to fighting for their current positions and those behind them. But as they make their way up towards turn number 3, well, how's that field standing after the open lap? It is Oscar Berntsson who leads ahead of Patrick Falconer. You've got 2 golds at the front, and then we have your silver leader of Emariu in 3rd. Matt Strand returns to the gold theme in 4th, ahead of Josh Boot in 5th. There's Ryan Davies, followed by Glenn Gondoliers. He is currently the 2nd of your silvers, in 7th place ahead of Alan McCain in the Rexy Machine, the AO Racing Tribute livery, and he makes his way onwards. He's 3rd of the silvers, ahead of Aaron Herbert and Chris Cole, who round off your top 10. So right now, it's an equal distribution of silvers and golds inside that top 10, as you can see in the time towel there with the stripes against the drivers' names. And Mirazam Yutsubov, who started all the way down in 18th place, he's had a very nice start. He's moved all the way out to 11th. Good on the man to do so. But right now he's got Andy Jones to close company. Although to be fair, if he lets the gold driver go, he won't lose anything other than an overall track position, just because he is a silver driver, of course. And golds and silvers are scoring points in their respective championship classes, not for overall position. So therefore, all you need to do as a silver driver is beat some other silver drivers and you will get more points. But meanwhile, Dave Van Dam makes a move there on none other than what is, well, in fact, that's Matty Wild go over the wheel on Dave Van Dam. I think Van Dam's got damage on the front of the car, and indeed he was caught up in what was the incident at turn number 1 and 2, and I think he made his way in towards the side of one of the DCW racing cars who got turned around, and that might explain the story there. Meanwhile, Andy Jones up the inside mirrors and Vitsubov, and Dave Van Dam all over the back of Matty Wild in towards Parabolica curve, but Van Dam right now just being patient there for GT3 Dave and not looking to make a move. Understandably, I think he feels though Wild's the one who's going to be able to pull him along a little bit more. But back to the front of the field, Oscar Berntsson and Patrick Falconer have swapped places off camera. The aim of the game here between these two, of course, is to work together for the first, 7 laps or so. And on that very last lap, they will then start to fight. And it's going to be a question of who's going to be the leader going on to that last lap and who wants to be the leader, perhaps the better way to describe it. But there goes Van Dam. On the inside of Wild, that would take 8th place in the silver class back. That's position swap for now. Albeit Wild having a slow exit there coming out of the Refilio chicane, so I wonder if Van Dam's able to break away. Rob Van Hoot, he's got his fans in the YouTube chat, and we do say hello there to DNotJE51. Goodness me, they're getting a username completely mixed up. Who's cheering this man on? And as he makes his way onwards, well, still more to come. Well, Van Hoot's still looking for a move here on Bigger Dyke. But as everyone comes on through here, well, we look back to your leaders. They continue to swap the places around. And, well, we say hello there to Tinfoil Innit, who's talking about the fact we need to see a bit more of the leaders. And here we go, good sir. Underneath the bridge here right now. Will Berntsson look for a move into Ascari? He is within the 10th, and the answer is going to be no. He just backs off there and waits for a little bit longer. And we'll understand we hear Berntsson, I think, playing the bigger game, which is there's no need to fight right now. Fight on the final couple of laps. That's when it's going to matter. Further back, Aaron Herbert. Well, he's chasing after Alan McCain. He wants that 3rd place in silver class. He'd like a few more places if he can. And, well, McCain's car definitely not looking as flush as it would normally. But Herbert gives him a little bit of bump draft there and says to him, no, keep going. I need you to catch up to Glenn Gondoliers. I want 2nd, not just 3rd off of you at the end of this race. And will the Drive Lounge racing driver right now be patient here, try to work the RSC Sports driver in front of him when they do have a 2-second gap to Glenn Gondoliers. Understandably, the Briton right now wants that to be halved as a minimum as they pick up the toe. But back to the front we go, and here comes Berntsson this time, looking up the inside as they make the one to lap number 4. And well, as they do, it's going to be Falconer on the right, Berntsson on the left. Patrick Falconer trying to target his best result of the season here. And well, Berntsson will take that place back. Classic move up the inside, and Falconer just rides to his rear bumper there and doesn't try to make too much of an effort in fighting it. And again, it's just a jostle for now, but I suspect it will get more and more violent between the two of them as they near that checker flag. But as we make our way towards the halfway point of this race, we look to Mats Strand and Josh Boot for a brief moment as the sun comes back out here. And Boot right now, well, is he going to be able to look for the move here? He thinks about it once, but in the end he doesn't try it twice and just waits behind Strand, the third place man in the gold class. They do have Emery, the silver leader, just in front of them, but the lead pack is definitely coming together a little bit now, and I wonder whether position swapping between Berntsson and Falcon is actually costing them the time that they would prefer to have to break away. But there's a look from Boot. He can't quite find it, coming in towards Lesbo 2, and in the end he's going to have to wait. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we take a look back in time to the open lap incident and what exactly happened at turn number 1. So all went a bit wrong for several drivers, and we're focusing in particular on Adam Klanvik as he made his way into the opening braking zone. He's in amongst all this, the silver ice cold racing driver, and turns there, and in the end collecting the 42 as well. So himself and the 42 car of what was none other than Richard Sumlot, I think, having a bit of an altercation and both coming together, and that triggered off the chain reaction. This is what it looked like on board from Kim Andre Bjørklund's perspective as he made his way down on the inside there, trying to stay as safe as possible. Brakes nice and early, and well, he's not going to be able to see what happens until it's too late. And now there goes Klanvik, and Bjørklund being elbowed out as everyone tried to escape to the right, just as much to the left. Bjørklund tried to turn back in, and in the end found what was one of the ice-cold racing cars alongside him, and what I think that was Klanvik essentially had been spat out there, and that's what came between them. This was what it looked like from Chris Cole's perspective, meanwhile, as he was a bit further back in the running order. Well, switched to the inside at the last possible moment, and once he came down to that braking zone, he's going to try to find a way through, and in the end he can't find it, gets turned slightly as Alan McCain squeezed up the inside, but Cole actually did a brilliant job of avoiding most of that, so he did survive it quite well, and we head back to your live racing. But as all of our drivers continue on, 4 laps left on the clock now, and we see Josh Boot has found his way ahead of Ryan Davies. He has made that progress. We might get a replay of that shortly, but now looking for the move here on Ryu, and the answer is going to be yes, he can. And well, goes up the inside there as he continues his chase of Mats Strand. And in fact, Strand was the man he was chasing just before we left him alone. Meanwhile, Berntsson and Falcon have swapped the places back at the front of the field, as we saw a little bit earlier on. They stay as they are. Coming up towards Lesbo 2 at the moment. We look back to Chris Cole, and he is trying to get on the back of Alan McCain here, and we'll run in the DCW colours today is Chris Cole. I do believe he's changed the livery over the course of the season, but he comes out of Lesbo number 2. Right now, he's targeting that full place of McCain, hoping to get close to Herbert to try and take away the silver podium. But I think taking that full place might be the priority here, particularly with Andy Jones now getting a bit closer. But here comes Cole, looking out, then looking in. I think trying to sight his brake marker and also trying to get into the head of Alan McCain. But McCain's seen that one before. He's not going to fall for it. As meanwhile, David Biggerdike here. He's going to swap place with Matty Wild. I think Wild backing off there with damage to the car. And in fact, Biggerdike will take that 9th place in the silver class off of him. But coming back to the back end of the top 10, of course, Chris Cole right now attacking Alan McCain. Well, if he finishes in 10th place, he's going to be rewarded with pole position for race number 2. So therefore, he's got to try and do a bit of a balancing act here. I think he's worried about Andy Jones getting on past and the risk that Jones will push him to 11th, and then suddenly he misses out on that pole position for race number 2. So McCain's really the key for Cole's race at the moment, not just for this race, but also the second race of the day. If he can find his way past McCain, I think he'll get Andy Jones to come through as well, and they'll push McCain entirely outside the top 10. That might be the DCW strategy here, as Cole right now gets the overspeed, looks the inside. McCain gets a little bit testy there as he slightly comes offline, thinking the move's potentially going to come. It doesn't. However, they are keeping an eye on each other at the moment, and Jones just waiting for the next move to happen. We are in the penultimate lap. Lap number 7 will be our final lap, and Oscar Berntsson right now gradually pulling away at the front as he makes his way in towards the Regia chicane. Falcon is still 7.5 tenths behind, and well, there's a slowdown for Oscar Berntsson, taking way too much of the curbing there at the chicane. He's going to lose the lead of the race, so therefore Patrick Fowler takes this back, and well, it's rare that we see a mistake for Oscar Berntsson. I mean, that's the first one we've actually caught on screen all the way through this season, and right now, well, for the 35 driver, this puts him back into second, but is that a bad thing necessarily? Because do you really want to be leading going on to the final lap at Monza? Many would say potentially not, given the speeds they'll be picking up down that start-finish straight. If they were reaching 169 to 170 miles an hour in clear air, I suspect we'll be pushing towards about 177 in a long-distance tow. But as Berntsson right now gets all over the back of Falconer, heading on through the Ascari chicane, once they roar the way on past us here, we do ride aboard with your leader and Patrick Falconer right now, hoping he could hold on for a little bit longer, and perhaps Berntsson will make another mistake. And getting ready to go in towards turn number 11. These drivers right now Well, close, no doubt about it, but what is to come as we've got some fighting going on further back. That's your top four altogether, and further back we do have Ryan Davies. He's just found his way on past Glenn Grondeliers, the second place silver driver, who's trying to catch up to Ryu and now hoping that Davies will help pull him along. But as they all make the way onto this last lap, back to the front we go then as they all come charged down. And Patrick Falconer right now, Oscar Berntsson, Mats Strand and Josh Boot all together here as they roll their way past. Here comes Berntsson up the inside, goes the move, and it's going to be relatively straightforward, or is it, as they'll go too wide in, and in the end Berntsson beats him to the punch. Meanwhile Strand there under pressure of Boot, and Josh Boot in the end tries to go inside to outside, but it doesn't quite work. Further back, well, here's the two wide between Alan McCain and Andy Jones, and Jones in the end does squeeze himself ahead, and Alan McCain in the end drops behind, and we thought this might be the game plan, and it seems to have paid out exactly as we expected. DCW Racing been able to get Jones into 10th place with Chris Cole as well, and the swap has happened. Now McCain will try and come back, but as our leaders hop and skip their way through turns 4 and 5, well, right now Berntsson, Falconer, Strand and Boot all nose to tail together here, and it's the top four incredibly close, and then Ryu leads the second pack of 5th through to 7th of herself, Davies and Grondeliers, and then Aaron Herbert is the odd one out here with nobody to play with in 8th place, and then Cole, Jones, McCain and Bjørklund, well, they're the rest. But Josh Boot, meanwhile, on the exit here, coming out of what is Lesmo number 2. We briefly lose him, he comes back, and we still holding on to third at the moment versus Matt Strand. Can he hold on to it for a little bit longer? We're going to have to see as the clock strikes 0. The checker flag will be awaiting them as they head to the start-finish line, but who exactly is going to be the one who leads the field there? Was a bit of a slip wide there from Matt Strand, and Boot right now staying just ahead for now as we can see the front damage there to Strand's car. The front bumper slightly deformed. We're on the way down now towards the final quarter, and Berntsson, well, with half a second between himself and Falconer, surely this is all said and done. All he needs is a good exit out of Parabolica curve, and he's going to be safe all the way to the finish line here. We'll make his way out of the quarter then, runs it as wide as humanly possible in order to make sure he carries all the speed. And as the checker flag waits him, it's going to be another sprint race win here. A well-managed one for Oscar Berntsson. Head of Patrick Falconer and Josh Boot who complete the top 3. Matt Strand finishes 4th. Emma Ryu takes the silver win in 5th. Head of Ryan Davies with Glenn Grondeliers just ahead of Aaron Herbert to complete the silver podium. Chris Cole comes home in 9th with Andy Jones completing the top 10. He'll be your pole sitter for race number 2 just ahead of best of the rest finisher Alan McCain, 5th of the silvers. And then Kim Andre Bjørklund was 12th ahead of Adam Klanvik. Mirzam Yutsupov takes 14th place, his best performance so far this season, ahead of Matty Wild. And then we will have Rob Van Hoek coming across the line there in 16th place in that somewhat frustrating race, ahead of David Biggerdike, who is missing a lot of parts on the front of his Porsche. Indeed, he's missing what is the front or the bonnet, but also he's missing there what is the front bumper as well. And as he comes on through there, they're going to do a lot of repair work to that car between now and the next race. Ollie Pimley still to come through as well, one of the biggest losers as a result of the lap 1 incident, as he makes his way to the timing line. And we've still got a few more cars to come through as well, as Pimley crossed the line in 11th for the silvers, 18th overall. And then we do have Alexandre Longieu coming through for 19th in the end, as he makes his way across the line, the Frenchman. And then we will have Ben Seaver complete the top 20 as he rolls off the final quarter here. And indeed, he's had a bit of a misfortunate race, but hoping for more in race number 2, as many of these drivers will be who finish towards the back. We did have a lap down finish for the former Dave Van Dam, who is 23rd, but meanwhile Jack Atkinson coming through in the race by wire machine, and as he does so, well, it's going to be 21st in this one. And be hoping the next one's a lot more straightforward. And I do believe that he's got nothing to lose in the next one, so he'll probably go all in it, win it or lose. And Richard Simnor as well, having started on the second row of the grid. It was a quick turn at lap number 1, turn 1, and in the end for Richard Simnor, it's all come and done. But he's got another race to make amends, but will he be able to do so? We'll have to see, ladies and gentlemen, because as we look to the scenic view and I'll try to take a brief break, let's take you through those provisional results subject to Eddie Stewart's inquiries. And as we can see, after 12 minutes of intense racing action at Monza for the first of our 2 races in round 5 of season 1 of the Race by Wire Porsche Cup, sponsored by none other than Energize Virtual Solutions, Oscar Berntsson taking victory for Ice Cold Racing by Maxim Racing by 6/10 over DCW Racing Blues Patrick Falconer. They swapped the lead multiple times, but in the end, when it got down to serious business, Oscar Berntsson, despite a slowdown penalty at the Regina chicane, nobody was quite able to slow him down, none more so than Falconer. In the end, it was second for Falconer, but ahead of Josh Boot by a second at the finish line for Atomic Esports, and then Matt Strand completed a run to 4th place for Ice Cold Racing. 6th to 4th is good, but he wanted that podium, but Boot was just one step ahead. Then it was Emma Ryu, your silver class winner there, 5th overall for ERR by the organisation, starting 6th on the next grid. Head of Ryan Davies, the 6th place finish for Empire Motorsport in a bit of a quiet race for him, even though he was all over the back of Ryu right towards the end. And Glenn Gondoliers in the end, runner-up in the silver class. He'll be happy with that for Pegasus Sim Racing and reinstating his championship charge immediately after the misfortune of Road Atlanta. Aaron Herbert, third of the silvers, Drive Lounge Racing, was 8th ahead of Chris Cole, with Andy Jones completing your top 10 there for DCW Racing Blue. Alan McCain was best of the rest in 11th there, missing out on that top 10 inverted grid just by a position. The Irish Esports driver ahead of Kim Andre Bjørklund, who fought hard through the field after the lap 1 altercation. But then it was Adam Klanvik in 13th place with another frustrating start to the race. The Ice Cold Racing driver ahead of Mirzam Yutsupov and Matty Wild, who completed the top 15. And outside the top 15 was Rob Van Hoot, ahead of Dave Biggerdyke, Ollie Pimley, Alexandra Longju, and Ben Sieber. Outside the top 20, meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen, in 21st place, it was Jack Atkinson, ahead of Richard Simnor, and it was a lap down, unfortunately, for Dave Van Dam for GT3 Dave, but expected to be back with the grid for race number 2, but he'll know, much like we do, that he's got to do it all from the very back of the field. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was race number 1. The circuit has mostly fallen silent for a brief moment, but the good news is it's not going to be silent for long, because very shortly we're heading to the grid for race number 2. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we make our way to the grid for our second and final race of round number 5 of the championship, and here they are for the 30-minute feature. It is Andy Jones who takes pole position ahead of silver pole sitter Chris Cole. We then have on row number 2 none other than Aaron Herbert in the company of Glenn Gondoliers. On row number 3, it's Ryan Davies and Emma Ryu, with Matt Strand and Josh Boot on row number 4. Your top 10 is completed by Patrick Falconer and race 1 winner Oscar Berntsson, and then in 11th place, starting where you finished in race number 1, it's Alan McCain. Kim Andre Bjørklund joins him for company on the 6th row of the grid, ahead of 7th row starters Adam Klanvik and Mirzam Yutsupov. And then we do have Matty Wild and Rob Van Hoot on the 8th row of the grid, ahead of Dave Biggerdyke and Ollie Pimley, with Alexandra Longju and Ben Sieber completing that top 20. Outside the top 20, the final full row of the grid is going to be Jack Atkinson and Richard Simnor. And last but not least, starting 23rd, it is going to be Dave Van Dam. Well, that's how they all line up. And with all our drivers lined up, it's time for the lights. It's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5 lights. And it's lights out and away we go here once again now for a 30-minute feature race as our drivers roar the way down towards turn number 1. Well, it's going to be a long distance run here as we get the blimp camera and, well, DCW Racing Machines at the front. But Aaron Herbert there side by side with Glenn Gondoliers as they battle. But Herbert's going to try and go around the outside there as they all come onto the brakes. And as they do, all the drivers coming on in, a bit of a concertina further down the order this time as Yutsupov goes defensive and goes safely through the chicane. One driver takes the escape road there, and let's give the car of Alexander Longju, who takes a hop, skip and a jump over the sleeping policeman. But in the end, it is all safely through the opening corners. They've all learned from race number 1, and now they'll carry on their way up towards the second chicane. As they make their way underneath the gantry, will all these cars together right now. A little peek of a move there potentially from none other than Adam Klanvik, can't quite find at the moment, versus Mirzam Yutsupov, and Alan McCain still in the hunt as Klanvik right now continues to move forward, and so was Oscar Berntsson there. As these drivers come through, meanwhile Dave Biggerdyke up the inside of Matty Wild in towards Lesmo 1. It's a nice early move there as we've got a car that's gone very, very wide by looks of things, runs to the gravel. Weeks out he has run out wide, we'll try to understand shortly, but otherwise everyone else keep it nice and compact for the time being. Yutsupov here making his way on down the circular straight, but here comes Adam Klanvik looking around the outside. Can Klanvik make this move here to move into 6th for the silver class nice and early? Yutsupov goes defence on the inside here, but will he hold it all the way to the inside of the Scari? The answer is yes, he will, but Klanvik sweeps around the outside there, and Yutsupov made to look a little bit static on the apex, but to be fair, defended it, but a very tight line there. You're not going to be able to carry much speed, and Dave Biggerdyke now will try to come back at him immediately as they make their way down towards turn number 11. But Andy Jones leads the field into the end of this lap, and a bit further back, Ryan Davies there. He's under a bit of pressure to get ahead of Josh Boot as Patrick Falconer is trying to fight his way past both Berntsson and Emma Ryu. But the problem is right now, Berntsson and Ryu are giving him as good as he's given them as they make their way onto lap number 2. In a much longer race, we'll understand here there might be a bit more patience being shown from our drivers, or hopefully there will be, just for the simple reason they have got 2.5 times the distance to go on this one, and therefore patience may be quite key. And further back, Rob Van Hoot now too wide here as they head down, as Berntson's just made his way back into Ryu off Canberra. But meanwhile, we can see while they go defensive versus Van Hoot, 2 into the 1 corner, and in the end, Van Hoot on the outside to inside there. Brilliant bit of driving from the number 19, tried to force the move every step of the way. And Wild's going to stay with him here as they make the way through. They're fighting over 9th place in the silver class, fighting over some precious points, but They come through. Meanwhile, Aaron Herbert blazes his way up the inside of Andy Jones in towards the Regia chicane. And Aaron Herbert right now back into the lead of the race. And, well, Aaron Herbert at this point, I can tell you one thing, after his taste of lead in the race overall at Road Atlanta, that has not left him whatsoever. I wonder if Aaron really fancies his chances here. Remember, this was the man who did not set a valid qualifying lap. Well, I think he really does fancy his chances right now to come up through and take an overall win here today. He made his way from 22nd. Oh, my good Lord, hold the fault on that. What on earth has gone up in the back? That's gone absolutely into the sky there. That's Patrick Falconer onto his roof. And how on earth has he ended up like that? How on earth has both he and also the driver who went with him, Ryan Davies, ended up there? Kim Andre Bjørklund, I think, was caught up in a bit of that as well, unless I'm mistaken. But that's absolutely huge. That's completely unexpected. And what I did say earlier, a car was going to roll at Ascari, potentially, but not at Lesmo number 2. As we see Rovan Hoot go wide there at Ascari. And, well, he rally crosses his way back onto the road as quickly as he can. We'll have to get a replay of that very shortly. And, well, hopefully, all's okay for Patrick Falconer, because I can tell you one thing, it may be a sim rig right now, but particularly if he's got a direct drive wheel going onto the roof of the car, that is not comfortable inside a sim rig. But meanwhile, Alan McCain here battling with Clanvick and Biggerdike, and will suddenly the back end of the top 10 has completely been blown wide open to the silver class here as they make their way on to the next lap. Your silver leader and overall leader, Aaron Herbert, might be trying to bolt away at the stable. But meanwhile, everyone fighting for full place here. Ryu, McCain, Clanvick, Biggerdike and Yutsupov. They're getting very close and firm together as Adam Clanvick looking on the inside. Kim Andre Bjørklund goes defensive versus Ryu. And well, in the end, it's going to be always 3 wide. But 2 by 2, they come through. And in the end, Bjørklund's going to go outside all the way around turn number 2. And Ryu will be made to wait just that little bit longer. As the silver drivers all build up a pack into a long queue behind the number 88 gold class machine. We're all coming up through turn number 3 and towards 4 right now. Everybody here definitely getting a bit fighty. But there's Andy Jones. He's retaken the lead off of Aaron Herbert. They swap the places back around, and Aaron Herbert, well, that time decided not to go all in the Regia chicane. Well, you can see a bit further behind Oscar Berntsson up the inside of Josh Boot. Meanwhile, Berntsson, the winner from race number 1. Well, right now he's gradually trying to make his way back to number 1 for this second race. But the thing is, Boot's not going to just give him. And Boot in the end carries it around the outside there at Lesmo 2. A little bit of contact between the 2 drivers, but in the end they both survive it just about. I think they'll be deemed a racing incident after the race. And as they make the way down the Sergio straight, Berntsson now up into 6th place there. Josh Boot definitely trying to show to Berntsson that he's not just furniture on this grid. And, well, I think he's definitely proven that over the last couple of rounds, to be fair, as Josh Boot. And well behind, Alan McCain is still trying to fight his way past Ryu as the Rexy machine continues to build on for iRace Esports. But the problem is that Ryu right now just seems to have an edge when he needs it in turn. But as we speak of turns, well, it took a turn for the worst only moments ago for Patrick Falconer. And I do believe, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to get a replay of what exactly happened to the DCW Racing driver as we take a look back in time. So this was going through the first of the 2 Lesmos side by side there with Ryan Davies. Now up towards Lesmo 2 they went, and as they did, contact between them initially, and in the end, well, sideways onto the gravel went Patrick Falconer, and at that point, at a 90-degree angle to the gravel, well, one side of the car slowed much quicker than the other, got to the tyre barrier, started to roll, and that was the story. This was the on board with Ryan Davies. He made his way through the corner. Remember, he's too wide here on the outside. Comes out of the bend as he tries to come across there. Well, you can see Falconer, it's almost as if that camera angle would suggest that Falconer came across to Ryan Davies, but what did it look like from Patrick Falconer's perspective? Not that we're doing stewarding, of course, we're just trying to see what exactly went wrong, and in the end, well, I think Falconer thought he might have been able just to squeeze slightly across there versus Davies, and then hold on to your hats, folks, because there he goes, rolling over and into the gravel. Meanwhile, we had this for Glenn Gondoliers at the same time. And this was Gondoliers right behind what happened there. And as he made his way in towards Lesmo 2, what exactly went wrong for him? I suspect this is going to be just a run wide off the apex. It is indeed, just runs out into the gravel there slightly. And then there was the big incident right behind them. So that explains the story there. And, well, what a story it was. We make our way back to your live racing pictures. So more races come, no doubt about it. And Andy Jones, Aaron Herbert, Glenn Gondoliers and Chris Cole all together. And we'll spot the odd one out. It is your race leader at the moment. He is the gold driver ahead of a pack of 3 silver drivers here as they come out of Ascari. We're not even a third of the way into the race yet. And already, I want to tell you one thing, these silver drivers right now, I think they're all wanting to be the first silver driver who gets an overall win. It's yet to happen this season. It doesn't normally happen, to be fair, in series like these. It normally takes a bit of a miracle or what is a choice set of circumstances. But I would make an exception for the Race by Wire entire Porsche Cup, because we've got several silver drivers here. Not saying they should be gold, mind you, but it's just the fact they were really showing their potential in these top 10 inverted feature race grids, whereby they see the opportunity of an overall podium, if not an overall win, and it just brings them to life. And here at Monza, with the power of the slipstream and the fact that this is really one of those circuits where it's full throttle every step of the way, you can understand why. As Aaron Herbert back up the inside now, Andy Jones, Glenn Gondoliers tries to tuck in behind Herbert. He's going to get the inside there as Aaron Herbert goes straight on, misses braking zone, and decides to release the brakes and just literally go straight on. That'll be a significant slowdown penalty. He's going to have to burn and serve. He will do it on the outside there, coming in towards Koa Bizzardo. And let's go drop it a long way down the order. And, well, he'll have to burn it, otherwise he'll get upgraded to a stop-and-go penalty in the pit lane. And, well, that's going to be far, far worse. That'll cost him the best part of approximately, what will be 30 seconds of race time, versus him falling back into fourth place right now, and 9 not to make the same mistake again. But through the left into right, all these drivers come, and the queue of cars is building. We've got Oscar Berntsson and Josh Boot down to this, so it's now a 7-way fight for the lead of the race. They're all getting close. Kim Andre Bjørklund, meanwhile, a bit back as we have a bit of a run to the escape road there for Alan McCain, who rejoins. He falls in behind Adam Klavik, so McCain got it slightly wrong, and we'll understandably there a error, which is going to cost him some time, and it's going to cost him even more as he's still trying to burn that slowdown penalty. Further back, we do have another pack of drivers. This is none other than Ryan Davies, the Empire Motorsport driver, who was in that altercation, of course, with none other than Patrick Falconer. Well, he's been able to get into the recovery mode, and right now Rob Van Hoot, Dave Van Dam and Alexander Longju are behind him, and they're all chasing down 10th place in the silver class that Van Hoot owns currently, but I suspect the other drivers would like a word with him about that. Getting ready for Ascari right now. There's going to be no changes here. They're all going to run together. But back up to the front of the field we come. And as we do, look at that top 7 again. 2 by 2 there, as it's going to be Mats Strand on the inside of Aaron Herbert. So Herbert right now trying to find his way around the outside here with Glenn Gondoliers having a very poor run through Parabolica Curve. It's that Gondoliers, I don't think he managed to get the throttle down the way he wants to. He's lost a huge amount of time, and suddenly actually backs Strand into Herbert there. Now, I don't think he did it by choice, but Aaron Herbert's going to be very grateful for this, although Mats Strand immediately says to Gondoliers, fine, I'm going to push you along and push you out the way. Here they come into the braking zone. Aaron Herbert just backs out. They're thinking about going free wide, and they realising that the doors of opportunity will close on him very quickly. And meanwhile, Cole, Berntsson and Boot make the way through, and Oscar Berntsson there makes it inside to outside versus Chris Cole and gets the job done. But heading all the way up now towards turns 3, 4 and 5, as we do say hello there to what is Matt Sprell, and unfortunately couldn't be on the grid today, but he's here tuning in and enjoying himself. I hope you're doing well, Matt. We do also say hello there to Nick Back, who's enjoyed himself in YouTube chat. But right now, Josh Boot enjoying fighting with Chris Cole, goes up the inside there, and well, Josh Boot definitely taking the adage, which is whatever Oscar Berntsson could do, I can do it too. You watch me, folks. But meanwhile, a bit of battling here between Biggerdike and, well, the two teammates getting side by side, and in the end, Matty Wilder losing a place there as Biggerdike just making his car a bit wider than it normally would be, and understandably they're trying to make sure that he gets the upper hand. The number 1 rule of racing, of course, is to beat your teammate. The number 2 rule is don't take your teammate out. But whilst all that's been happening, with Gondoliers, of course, taking the lead of the silver class around Herbert slow down, well, now here comes Herbert all over the back of him up towards Ascari. Although I think Aaron Herbert right now gesticulating rather than trying to force a move on him. But the number 99 driver's not going to be quite sure about this one until the race is done. And well, Aaron Herbert, I don't know where this has come from, this pace. I wonder whether Aaron Herbert, the Drive Lounge Racing driver, because we saw this, of course, signs of it at Le Mans, and we saw it massively at Road Atlanta. I just don't think he's had the chance to really shine. He has been obscured a bit by the likes of Adam Klamvik and also none other than Gondoliers and Emma Ryu in the early stage of this season. But right now, since what has been round number 4, he has been absolutely alive here, and Aaron Herbert is looking to try and chase this one down. As he makes his way on down, the start-finish straight here, we're looking one way then the other, and in the end, it's not going to quite work, or is it? As Gondoliers will force him in the end to have to go to the inside, so Herbert does find his way through. I think Gondoliers doesn't want to lose the time to the drivers in front of him necessarily, and doesn't want to risk bringing other drivers into this. So Aaron Herbert makes the move stick for now. Meanwhile, Adam Klavik and Kim Andre Bjørklund, they're being brought along together, and then we look for the 2 Nordic drivers here, to Ryu versus Yutsupov, and in the end, Ryu up the inside of the 820 machine. Rio now into 5th place in silver and 10th overall. There's plenty of change going on. And then we look back to Ryan Davies here, who still has the unenviable task of picking his way with some silvers in tow through the silver field, as we have got a black flag meanwhile for Alan McCain. That is going to be for a drive-through penalty he's going to have to serve. I suspect it's either for instant points or for failing to observe a slowdown. I suspect it's more the instant points here, given the off-tracks the drivers have had. And Ryan Davies right now still here, still trying to find a way through. Wherever you look, we've got plenty of battles to enjoy, as meanwhile Matty Wild versus Ryan Davies. Davies jumps up the inside there, off in the distance, coming in towards Lesbo 1, and Wild just tucks in. We're on board with Alexander Longju as the BB1 sim racing driver right now. looking to try and get into the fight here for his 8th place in the silver class, with Wild Van Hoot and Van Dam in front of him. But the problem is right now, I think he can stay with them, but I don't think he's got an edge in pace here to be able to find the way through. But then again, everyone's got the toe of the next car in front of them, so it equalises the progression of the slipstream. And it does get to a point here right now where it really comes down to what the driver can do in the dirty air that they're confronted with. Longzhu there, very quick into Ascari. Lovely run here. He may get a really good run out of this. And well, as he tucks in nice and tight, he's got the best part of a 4-car draft in front of him. Looks one way, then the other, but wants to go to the inside. But they're all spreading out here, so therefore there's no real way through. And he's at the mercy of everyone else potentially holding the racing line. So then he has to look around the outside to make this work. Goes to the switchback of the apex of Parabolica curve. And we're coming on out at the moment. Oh, it goes wrong for Van Dam, who taps the rear of Van Hoot's car. In the end, they both go round, and it all goes backwards here for Longzhu. And well, it's all gone very quickly wrong. And well, all those tries get it wrong. In fact, I think it was Rob Van Hoot's car at the end that's come off even worse than Van Dam's. And well, Van Dam has been able to survive it, but Rob Van Hoot, meanwhile, well, he's got on through as well. I thought it was going to be Van Dam going with Longzhu, but in the end, it's Van Hoot's had it all go wrong. And well, what a nightmare month for all of them. And we've got the black flag machine of Alan McCain behind, and well, that's still staying out until it has to absolutely serve it. But coming back to what just happened here, here's a quick replay. So this was in the end, Van Dam versus Van Hoot. They made the way through the corner. That explains what happened there. So in fact, it was contact between Van Dam and Van Hoot in the first place that sent Van Dam sideways and Van Hoot over to the barrier. And then Alexander Longzhu was a victim of the circumstance of Van Dam's car coming loose and making progress towards his. And he then straightened Van Dam out, but it came at the cost of the Frenchman and the Belgian driver. So that fills in very nicely, but so unfortunate for both drivers there. Van Dam very lucky not to end up in the wall with them all. But meanwhile, come back to your live pictures, and what we can see is Oscar Berntsson, Josh Boot together again, and Berntsson goes deep there, Ascari, and Boot coming on strong there, and I wonder whether there's a bit of a touch between the two of them, but Berntsson does have now to serve a bit of a time penalty there, gives the time back immediately, and drops to the back of the top 7 pack here, so Josh Boot finds his way back ahead, as does not Kim Andre Bjørklund, who's in the rear of the picture, but Glenn Gondoliers and Chris Cole do, and coming in towards turn number 11 right now. All these drivers still nose to tail together, but Aaron Herbert, well, after losing out to what is Andy Jones and Mats Strand, well, one thing he's definitely done is worked with them now to create a 2.5 second gap for 4th place. That has been aided, of course, by Boot and Berntsson getting very close together. But right now, can they maintain that gap? Because if they can, this may be a three-way fight for the overall win right now. And we can see Gondoliers here together. Boot defend on the left of your picture, Gondoliers on the right of the picture, and well, your silver 2nd place driver right now doesn't need to risk this. However, he does need to try and break away because Chris Cole is right behind him, who wants to try and push him back into 3rd of the class and what will be 6th overall. So it really is give to take at this point. Let's take a look back at the Boot Berntsson moment. So this was them making the way in towards the Ascari chicane. Can we get a better angle of this potentially? The answer is no. And Boot in the end did make contact by looks into the back of Berntson's car, and that did send Berntsson wide. So that may explain the story. Albeit the camera angle not ideal there, but we won't dwell on it any longer as we do need to make our way back to your live racing because there's still more to come. Kim Andre Bjørklund, in fact, has picked up a slowdown at Regis chicane, so that releases Klanvik ahead of him now. But Klanvik is still 4 seconds behind the next pack of cars here. He's going to have to do this under his own volition if he wants to gain. I don't think that's going to be very easy here, although he does have some fans cheering him on. Indeed, we say hello there to iRacing Only Sweden, who is cheering on Mats Strand, Oscar Berntsson and Adam Klanvik, given the fact that he's learned so much from them. And, well, as all these drivers coming on through, he predicts that they'll be in the top 10s in both races. Indeed, they've been performing very well so far, particularly both Berntsson and also Strand. Klanvik definitely had a bit of a rough race 1. He's definitely had a much better race number 2 by comparison. I'm glad to have you tuned in with us, good sir. But meanwhile, we look to Gondoliers versus Berntsson. And right now, Berntsson will try and get his way back towards Josh Boot. Will Boot, after making a bit of a hasty braking zone of the Ascari chicane. Will Berntsson right now, I think he'll forgive him for it. But what he'll try and do is also get back at him sooner rather than later. On the inside there of Gondoliers, and Gondoliers just taking his time. We also say hello there to Fisco44, who was asking about why we saw some drivers not set qualifying times. I suspect it may have been for the simple reason they were worried about Monza Turn 1 lap number 1. We see our drivers coming down. Well, right now, still more to go as we say hello to Ivan Sander. But right now, also saying hello to Glenn Gondoliers. There is Chris Cole, and Cole getting close. Not close enough at the moment. Meanwhile, coming out of the chicane, we have had Mats Strand, Andy Jones and Aaron Herbert get a lot closer to each other. And this time, here is going to be Aaron Herbert, where he's on the outside here, getting ready to do battle under braking. And as he does so, nice inside line there, and immediately Jones backs out. You can see right now, the ones who are racing with their heads sides rather than with their throttle pedals. And right now, Andy Jones trying to be as clever as possible with this race. Aaron Herbert, I think he's trying to be smart, but he's also trying to chase down this overall win. And I think for Aaron Herbert, his process in his mind is, if I get to the front of this race, I will then force Strand and Jones to fight each other for second, because the way he's positioned the car, it really is, when he wants a place, he's making it very clear it's going to either be a fight for position or they have to let it go. He is being very forceful with his moves, albeit nothing illegal from Aaron Herbert, but he's got a very different dynamic to the two gold drives around him, and it just shows the fact that right now he's so keen to make an overall result out of this. He'll come behind them, and as they do in towards Ascari, and Berntsson, Boot, Gondoliers and Cole, all three drivers still there. Meanwhile, Ryu versus Bigodite. This is 5th place in the silver class and 10th place overall. But I think this is going to be the highest place they're fighting for, unless we have any difficulties for the drivers up the road. But the key point being here that Ryu, after taking what was that very strong win in the silver class in race number 1, well, with the way the race has played out so far in this one, well, right now Ryu relegated down. But to be fair, some solid points coming her way, even if it's just the 5th place in this one. But Bigodite wants to try and spoil the party. Looking around the outside there in towards Parabolica Curve. Rubbing door to door, and number 13 driver here all the way around, but no change at the moment from them. Heading on towards the start-finish line. It's still going to be a drag race here as Ryu tucks it behind. Bigodite immediately switches the inside there, and we're doing that at the best part of 150 miles an hour. That is incredibly risky as Ryu tucking into the zone, looking left, looking right, trying to absolutely sniff the back of what is the DCW racing machine. A small tap between the two into the braking zone. They go! Ryu looking up the inside. There's still door rubbing in the end. And, well, right now, the home hero looking for the move. And gets it. But Bigodite, I think we feel as though, you know what, the elbows might come out a little bit more next time. And they get a bit forceful between these two as well. And well, we're heading towards the end of the first 2/3 of the race. We've got 11 minutes left on the clock still. And here comes Bigodite back once again. Ryu going defensive now. These two absolutely locking into a battle here. And we can see what it's doing. It's being Yutsupov right behind him. So is Ryan Davis. But Bigodite doesn't care about that. He cares about going too wide for the chicane. Ryu gives him the space. And Bigodite takes it back. Yutsupov there now coming on immediately here. And suddenly, it's going to be a freeway fight for 5th in the silver class, with the added element here of Ryan Davis, the gold driver, wanting to interfere. But as they come up towards Lesbo 1 and Lesbo 2, well, they're all settled down for a brief moment. Ryan Davies knowing that he can't really find a way through here, but he'll look for it on the next couple of corners, most certainly as he heads towards Ascari. But the fighting absolutely intensifying between these drivers. Look a little bit further back for a brief moment. Here's Ollie Pimley, still trying to find his way up to Rob Van Hoot. They both had difficult races so far, and right now both drivers here just looking to try and salvage some points in the silver class as best as they can. This has not been their finest hour, but they can always end it on a little bit of a personal high if they try. Back to the front, we look to Mats Strand then, coming towards the end of this lap. And going on to lap number 12 shortly, and well, 10 minutes left on the clock as they enter onto this lap. And now, well, the attitudes will start to change a little bit. This is where positioning becomes a little bit more important. So does tyre life. So we haven't really talked about today, and the fact that tyre degradation around here, it's more brake wear rather than tyre degradation, given how heavy the braking zones are. But you will put a lot of load on what will be the left-hand side tyres, given the fact that this circuit being clockwise, it leans more towards the left than the right tyre wear. But still, Strand right now holding on ahead of Herbert and Jones. And these three, as much as they're working together, they do have the growing threat of this man, Oscar Berntsson, who has gradually broken away from Josh Boot to a second now. He is 1.6 seconds behind Jones, and this is where I think Oscar is absolutely digging in and starting to put together the qualifying laps. I think he's tried to save his tyres as much as possible earlier on in the race, and in doing so now he's given himself the chance. As Aaron Herbert looking up the inside of Strand then, in towards Lesbo 1, but Strand immediately backing off there, and now you can definitely see Aaron Herbert's got his wish. The Drive Lounge Racing Drive is now leading this race, but what does he do with it now? Does he make himself the widest Porsche in existence in Italy, at least for today, or does he play the game of work together? Because Oscar Berntsson is now a second behind this trio. That means he is now in tow range, and he will definitely be starting to build up a bit of a slipstream. He won't gain as much as the two cars that he's behind, for the simple reason they've got the draft of Herbert, and they've therefore got an increased amount of slipstream to work with. But if Berntsson can get even close to this, we suddenly have a four-way fight growing once again. But will he bring Boot with him? Will he bring Gondoliers and Cole as well? Because it was a seven-way pack for the lead early on, until Boot and Berntsson had a bit of a moment in towards Ascari. That broke the field up. But now, in towards the corner here, we can see Andy Jones looks up the inside, and immediately Strand backs off there. He doesn't want to fight this Mats Strand, but he's got his teammate with him now. This might be a bit of a decisive moment here. Does Ice Cold Racing, powered by Maxim Racing, decide to try and find a way, an inventive way to get past the DCW Racing car and the Drive Lounge Racing Machine? Well, here they go as they make the way down towards turn number 1 on lap number 13. Still more laps to go. This is not the final lap, we should point out. So all the position swapping right now may not be worth it. But heading up towards the braking zone here, Strand and Jones now take to the foreground of the camera shot. Herbert tries to make it 3 wide. He can't quite do so. Strand and Jones 2 wide all the the way through the chicane. And in the end, it will be Mats Strand who gets ahead for a brief moment, but Jones now gets the better exit. Coming up towards turn number 3, and we can see that Herbert and Berntsson definitely over the back of this now. When it's a drag race between your two leaders, and in the end, Strand immediately relinquishes the lead, doesn't want to fight it. Also, we've got to keep in mind the fact with the 17 instant point limit here, does anybody have a risk of picking up a drive-through penalty at this rate for contacts? Aaron Herbert dives at the inside. He says to hell with it, and in the end, they make the way through. Aaron Herbert moves back into second place. It's Mats Strand and Oscar Berntsson, the two teammates, fall back into third and fourth. And Andy Jones still leads this race, but goodness me, Aaron Herbert right now, he really is just sticking his nose into places amongst these gold drivers. Josh Boot is on the back of this now. We have a top 5 altogether, and well, I said earlier on, spot the odd one out with the gold driver leading all the silvers. Now it's the case of spot the odd one out where it's the silver driver who's in the middle of all the gold drivers. It's becoming an incredible back and forth in this group, and Glenn Gondoliers and Chris Colby while chasing down the group, but they're also focusing on their fight for what will be second place in the silver class here. But understandably, I think Chris and Glenn both want to try and get involved in that. They don't want to fight each other until they absolutely have to, and we're going to stay with this lead pack for the majority of this race now, ladies and gentlemen, because most of the other fights, they have broken down. You have to forgive us for not giving you coverage for the rest of the field, but this is where all the action is at right now, and understandably, 7 minutes to the final lap to go. Well, anything can happen. It normally does in motorsport, and I suspect there's going to be some drama in this one before it's all said and done, but hopefully good drama at that. But on to the start for this straight they come, and as they do, well, what other things will be drivers considered here? Stamina's going to be a big play here, and mind games as well. You've got to know where you want to be. They're all going to be thinking not about the next lap, they're going to be thinking about the final lap and where they're going to be in this order, particularly when you've got so many cars. But here comes Herbert looking around the outside, getting ready to go onto the brakes here. The cars behind all just queue up. Herbert trying to squeeze his way through, making sure to give Jones just enough space to cooperate, and in the end, Aaron Herbert being a bit forceful with Jones on the outside. That's going to enable Mats Strand here to get the better run off the corner. Now, will Strand fully commit to it? Will Jones back off? Will either of them decide to let it go here? And will two wide initially through Berntsson. And is this going to be the story now? Will Herbert be given his chance? We'll have to see here, because Herbert defends the inside. He makes sure that he's not going to lose the place. Strand on the inside there versus Jones. Jones goes very deep, and in the end, the switch back of Oscar Berntsson proves pivotal, and he moves back onto the inside here as now. Just Boot getting even closer. So Jones is pushed backwards down to fourth place, and well, it's the ice-cold racing drives now. They've got one more target to meet. Aaron Herbert at the front of the group, with Glenn Gondoliers and Chris Cole now on the back of this group as well. The 7 drivers, I almost said the 7 samurai there, but it would be appropriate in Italy. That's for Japan. But right now, our 7 drivers here, our 7 superstars, we're at the front of the field at the start. They're all back together once again. And as they make their way up towards the Ascari, well, I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, we've still got to do this at least another 2 times. But who at the end of it all is going to be the winner overall in this one? Whether they're silver or gold, it won't matter at that point. We're going to see, because right now, Aaron Herbert is doing everything he can to bring home this overall win. I think it meant that much to him, the overall win at Road Atlanta, and he was disappointed when he didn't get it. But will he have to do it here? Of course, as a minimum, taking the silver win, that's going to give a huge haul of points, but he wants more. He's greedy, and I can't blame him for that right now, as the angel on his shoulder has been removed ages ago, and the devil's taken over here. It's got the wheel, and we'll make the way on towards what we lap number 15. With 5 minutes left on the clock, in fact, we are going to get 3 more laps, including the one they've gone on to, if my mental mathematics is correct. So 3 more attempts. This gets Aaron Herbert, and all the field behind him right now have all got to decide exactly what they want to do as the fog starts to build here at Monza, and we'll 2 by 2 they come into the braking zone. Jones back up the inside there. Berntsson, Strand, well, Andy Jones goes straight on there. He decides to take to the escape road. It will be a slowdown as a result of that. That's going to relegate him down the order, surely. Was he forced off the road there? I think he would argue, yes, he had to go off the road there to avoid what could have been an instant, but something tells me, meanwhile, Andy Jones and Oscar Berntsson, they're going to look at this and think, right, gold opportunity, as they all build up, and it's going to be almost 3 wide here towards the braking zone until it's not, as it's going to be Berntsson on the inside of Jones. Contact between the two, and Jones goes round. Jones goes completely 180 degrees the wrong way, and Andy Jones, he falls out of this, he falls down the field. And Andy Jones is out of the running now for the lead of this race, surely at that point. And well, I can tell you, Adam Klavik and Kim Andre Bjørklund, they're now only 4 seconds behind this. They are closing on this group gradually, so therefore anything's possible at this rate with the amount of fighting that's going on. But Andy Jones that's sent on down, and well, we'll get a quick replay of that. And what also happened to Aaron Herbert, here is the replay. So this is where it all started, coming down in towards turn number 1 as they made the way down. Well, Strand 2 wide here with Herbert. Was Herbert forced off the road? Small tap there, yes, that contact did send him straight on. So unfortunately, a small touch. I don't think there was any malice meant in it, but that's what led to Aaron Herbert essentially having to give up the spot because of the fact he picked up a slowdown because he was sent onwards. But then we had this for Andy Jones, and for Jones, What exactly went wrong is the question, and the answer is going to be found out very shortly as we continue this replay footage. As he made his way underneath the gantry there, went into the braking zone, and as he did, just a tiny touch there, Oscar Berntsson. Again, no malice meant, but it's really fine margins, and he had to wait to rejoin with the next drivers in the field coming on through. But we come back now to your live racing as we go on to lap number 16. It is the penultimate lap. Strand and Berntsson, the two teammates, but also the two championship rivals. And Strand knows he needs this win if he wants to try and level the playing field a little bit, but Aaron Herbert immediately on the back of them, trying to make sure Josh Boot does not get him past, and therefore he doesn't have to worry about the silver drivers behind. As they make the way up towards turn number 3. Right now, this battle has definitely been going on for all the way through this race. It's had so many different guises, and right now, for Aaron Herbert, can he hold on a little bit longer? Glenn Grondelier is still there, and well, I can definitely see the number 99 has got plenty of support in the YouTube chat as they make their way to the braking zone. Herbert right now, meanwhile, he's got Boot looking left, looking right, but Boot can't find his way in. No way through, despite the fight he's putting on. And well, a bit further back, meanwhile, you see in the rear of the picture, that is Adam Klavic chasing down Kim Andre Bjørklund for 7th place at this point. And well, he wants to get a bit closer if he can. We do also quickly look back to Miroslav Yusupov, the 820 driver who's over the back of Matty Wild. Therefore, I see over 7th and some big points. So both these drivers, this will be a season best performance if they are able to land it. For Yusupov looking up the inside here in towards the Energise chicane. That's pretty straightforward there, and gets it done as he blocks nicely versus Matty Wild. And we'll leave them there, because coming back to your leaders, well, the Ice Cold Racing team now in control, it would seem, as they've opened up a bit of a gap. It's 1 second to Aaron Herbert at the moment. He's having to go more and more defensive versus Boot, with Gondoliers and none other than Cole following him as they make the way on towards Parabolica. And it's one last tour of the circuit, another 3.6 mile run, and at the end of that final lap, well, all be said and done, but who will be the one who comes on home with the winner's medal? We will see, because here it is to be, ladies and gentlemen, making the way onto the final lap. Berntsson getting a better run out of the final corner. It's going to be a drag race between the two teammates, and they're both right now going to put aside the fact they're teammates, and now it's a rivalry as they roar the way down. I'm going down that start finish straight here. Berntsson on the inside already down towards turn away. He's got his nose slightly ahead by a tenth, by 2 now. As Strand backs off there, decides not to fight it. Herbert defending versus Boot. He wants to use the gold driver as a bit of a space saver versus Gondoliers and Cole. Meanwhile, a bit further back, Kim Andre Bjørklund still battling here with Adam Klavic, who's trying to come back and through, but no way through for him at the moment. So back to Boot we go. Boot here losing out on the exit of turn number 2. Through he goes. Gondoliers away with the back of him down like a bad rash, and Gondoliers wants this place off. Thinks he wants to go hunting after Herbert. Well, in the end, Boot going defensive. He's trying to say to the silver driver, no, I want to chase down the golds in front of me. Neither driver can agree on what they want to do. Further back, Bjørklund versus Klavic in towards the Regia chicane. And Klavic going defensive, still trying to keep the gold driver behind him, trying to get one up on him, even if it's not worth any points. It's worth a little bit of personal pride. And in the Bigonite versus Ryu battle, well, Bigonite has got ahead of Ryu, now fighting with Ryan Davies. He goes around the outside, and in the end, Ryu's going to be over the back of what will be Bigonite, but this time go around the outside of Davies, but it's not going to work into Lesbos. But meanwhile, back to the front of the field we go. A snippet there, what's going on further down the field, but to the front we firmly stay. Transfixed now, as we'll see our drivers make their way towards Oscari and Berntsson. Well, the winner of race number 1, of course. He led the race, he comfortably controlled it for the most part, and right now he seems to be in control here. Half a second between himself and Mats Strand, his teammate. He found his way through on the run down towards turn number 1. Strand played it quite passively, hoping perhaps he'd be able to come back, but Aaron Herbert here, he wants that second place off of Strand. If he can go for it, he's going to go all in here, all to the inside, and Herbert's going to go for that move right at the end here. He's going to get Paul run off the corner, and as they all make the way on towards the finish line, well, the checker flag waves, and is it going to be 2 for 2 for Oscar Berntsson? It certainly is, because the Ice Cold Racing driver takes the win here in the feature race. Head of Mats Strand, who is the runner-up. Aaron Herbert takes the silver win, 3rd overall. Head of Josh Boot, and it'll be Glenn Gondoliers, the runner-up of the silver class. Head of Chris Cole, with Adam Klavic hold on to 7th place here, ahead of Kim Andre Bjørklund, and it will be Andy Jones who comes on through in 9th place in the end, ahead of David Bigonite, who comes home in 10th, 5th of the silvers, just ahead of Ryan Davies and Emma Ryu, and it will be Miroslav Yusupov who makes it about the final corner. Can he hold on for a season best performance here versus Matty Wild? Wild's in the toe, but I don't think he's got enough of a run to make this count, and Yusupov will take that 7th place in silver class ahead of Wild, both enjoying season best performances either way, and then we will see 16.5 2.5 seconds back very shortly. Ollie Pimley making his way out the final quarter here to take what will be 9th place in silver and 15th overall. And then it will be Ben Sieber who completes that top 16 with Alan McCain in the end a bit further back after his miserable start to this race. And Will McCain will come home in 17th for the end. No, it's just not been his day here in Italy. But still, he's carried on to the finish line. He's finished how he started, which is with effort. And then we will see Rob van der Hoed gradually make his way out to the final quarter. Missing the rear wheel of the car as well. He's still got what is the stands to the wing, but unfortunately he hasn't got the wing itself. It has come off as a result of that moment at this very corner between himself and also Alexander Longshoe and David Dam. But in the end, for Rob van der Hoed, he will be your last league lap finisher and he will take home 18th place. As he comes to a halt, and indeed all of our racing comes to a halt, ladies and gentlemen, well, Alan McCain takes his time to cool on down here. What a pair of races it has been. It has been an absolutely breathless day of racing. It's been great to see so many of you enjoyed it there, as we also do say hello to none other than S. Messier, who's been enjoying the racing and particularly cheering on Glenn Grondeliers. But as all our drivers cool on down, the circuit begins to fall silent. Let's take a look at those race results, subject to Eddie Stewart's inquiries. And as we can see, after 30 minutes of fast and furious racing action here in our feature race at Monza for round 5 of season 1 of the Race by Wire Porsche Cup, sponsored by Energise Virtual Solutions, Oscar Berntsson does make it 2 from 2. He lands the perfect score for Ice Cold Racing powered by Maxim Racing, and Matt Strand joins him to make it a 1-2 for the team. And Strand doing brilliantly there after just missing out on making it a 1-2 in race number 1. We definitely got the job done here in the feature. Aaron Herbert, what a performance from him, and another silver win, and Aaron Herbert therefore making it silver wins 2 from 2 today, no doubt about it. And what a performance it was, no questions asked with regards to 2 feature race silver wins back to back, and the Drive Lounge racing driver there in the number 3 will be absolutely pleased as punch. Sadly, he couldn't quite take the overall win, but another overall podium, that's what he was going for as a minimum. And Josh Boot there, the Atomic Esports driver, 8 tenths behind, 4th place, and in the end, well, 3rd place in class, he'll be happy with the points, but wondering what it was going to take to beat Aaron Herbert. Glenn Grondeliers had to settle for 2nd in the silver class, but 5th overall for Pegasus Sim Racing. And to be fair to him and Chris Cole, the two of them really worked together for the majority of the race, trying to move back into that pack when it got split, and they did a brilliant job of working together. And in the end, I think both drivers there were equal to each other at the very end, and that's why Cole had to settle for 3rd in silver and 6th overall. And it was Adam Klanvik, a further what was 5 seconds behind at the end in his furious battle with Kim Andre Bjørklund, but he got the upper hand, did the Swede for Ice Cold Racing ahead of the Norwegian driver of Sim Racing Norway, with Andy Jones in 9th place there for DCW Racing Blue. Well, it was a frustrating race in the end. It didn't quite go the way he wanted it to, but he was able to finish inside that top 10 ahead of DCW Racing Red's David Biggerdite. Biggerdite was your 5th place finisher in the silver class and held on to that top 10 spot just ahead of Ryan Davies, who was best of the rest, with the Empire Motorsport driver enjoyed a freeway battle with Biggerdite himself and Emma Ryu, the ERR by the organisation driver, in the end not quite able to cover through in this one. Miroslav Yutsupov took 13th place, enjoyed a great set of performances here today, particularly in the second race, ahead of Matty Wild for DCW Racing Yellow, who showed that whilst in the sprint race it may not have gone quite right, in the feature it definitely went very well. Ollie Pimley, unfortunately, only 15th in this one for Go Squadron Esports' driver, but he did enjoy the company of Ben Sieber, who was just behind him at the end for DCW Racing Yellow, and then Alan McCain, Rob van der Hoed completed your finishers on the lead lap. It was a lap down to Alexandre Longjou, and then we did sadly have your retirees of David Dam, who was classified as 20th, ahead of Jack Atkinson, Richard Simnor, and Patrick Falconer. And well, for both of the DCW Racing Blue drivers in the end, what a frustrating race for the simple reason, particularly for Patrick Falconer, started all the way towards the front of the field, but in the end it came off rolling the car at what was Lesmo number 2, and it never quite got rolling back on the road ever again. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, the race is complete here, and well, no broadcast can be complete here at Race by Wild without some post-round interviews, and without further ado, we'll be back in approximately 5 minutes' time, if not quicker, for those interviews. Don't go anywhere, you won't want to miss them. We will see you again very shortly. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time for our post-round interviews. And what better way to kick off than with a man who definitely has been back in form today, because joining me in the interview room right now is none other than Mats Strand. Good evening to you, Mats, and what a round of racing from yourself. It's been a tough last couple of rounds. Your teammate of Oscar has perhaps been taking a bit of the headlines, but today we got to see you back with a smile and with plenty of points as well. How do you feel about your performance at Monza?
Good evening, Paul. Yeah, it was good, better than expected, I guess. A bit lucky in the first race, getting cleanly through T1, T2, gaining places, and then a bit lucky again in the reverse grid, getting a lot of places on T1, T2. But the pace is okay, and then I got some help from Oscar in the end, doing some bump drafting. So it was a good catch of points tonight.
Well, indeed, a good set of points, and we saw you work with your teammate, particularly in race number 2, but dialing it all the way back to qualifying, 6th overall, 4th in class. I mean, Monza's always going to be a tough one to qualify at, given how close it is on pace. Were you happy with where you'd finished in the qualifying session?
I think I had a bit more time in the bag, but I'm struggling a bit with the car in general this season. The new Porsche, haven't got the feeling of it, and struggling with qualifying. So I need to do a banker, and then struggling a bit with the push, but it was okay. But I would like to see maybe a 46 lap, but it was okay.
Well, fair play. Well, the 46 may have just snuck away from you, but to be fair, you're never too far away from some of the intense battling. 4th place in the sprint, a solid start to your day. I mean, just take us through the sort of back and forth, because obviously it went a bit wrong for so many drivers on what was lap number 1, but you avoided some of the madness.
Yeah, the plan was always to try to have the inside on T1 and the outside of T2. That tends to be the safe place. Like I said, a bit lucky in the first race because Adam, my teammate, he got spun. I think I barely missed him on the outside. And then when I came out, I think I was P4 and only had 2 seconds up to Emma. So, and got the toe quickly. So, yeah, both races, T1 inside, T2 outside worked. So, but it's a bit of luck here. So.
Well, fair play. And just on that, of course, after the luck of the opening couple corners in both races, one of the things we've noticed in both as well is the fact that yourself and Oscar, and it seems to be a theme with Ice Cold Racing here today, a lot of drivers thinking about taking track position early, yourselves more thinking about being behind drivers until the very last lap. So is that always the plan, to sort of play the game of let them push, you just tuck in the toe and then take the place right at the end?
I was at least in the feature race. I was taking it easy. It was 3 silver drivers and 1 gold driver. I didn't see the need to push early on and push the tires. I was a bit unsure of the tires. And then at the end of the feature race, Oscar is a lot quicker than me. So I say he gained this time even though we were in tow. So yeah, it was kind of all in the game plan. If we catch up, that we could cooperate a bit. So yeah.
I see. Well, definitely a good game plan to have. And in the end, well, we got to see you put together a great 4th place in the sprint race. And what it meant was that going onto the grid for the purposes of our feature race, we'd then see you starting in none other than 7th. But obviously, excluding turn 1, the dynamic of this feature race quite special. A load of silvers at the front of the field with Andy Jones leading them, and then yourself and Oscar gradually come into that field. I mean, did it feel odd the fact the silver drivers seemed to be very eager to take the overall positions rather than just let the gold guys go?
It's like it's a 30-minute race. I was a bit worried about Josh because they had a bit. They took it quite. They had a quite easy or early braking to the entrance in the first laps. And Josh came in a quite hot, so he touched my bumper a couple of times, but unfortunately I didn't get much damage. I don't think he got much either. But like it wasn't for me. The gold driver wasn't getting away, so I wasn't too stressed. There were 3-4 drivers in a pack. It's a 30-minute race. It's okay. Don't need to stress. And they made a couple of mistakes. I got one on the outside of T2. He spun his rear tires. And then I think I got one with a bumper draft. I got 2 of them actually with a bump draft. So a bit of patience, and it worked out.
Oh, 100%. We could definitely see you being patient all the way through, but in the closing laps, of course, when time is now starting to run out, and suddenly it's yourself and also Oscar, we also got to see, of course, one silver driver who perhaps didn't want to let you guys have it your way, Aaron Herbert. I mean, you must have been thinking to yourself, where is this man coming from? Because he's coming left, he was coming right. He wasn't going to let you guys go.
Yeah, or Aaron, we had a bit of touch into T1 in the early laps. I think 2 laps or 3 laps remaining. I was on the inside, he was in the outside, and he had to take the slow down. I tried to wait to have him serve the slow down. I'm not sure if it was my fault or his, but it wasn't my intention to have contact. But yeah, I saw he was coming back up again, and me, Oscar, and me could probably have cooperated a bit better. But Oscar said, "I'm sending it now," and when he sent it down the inside, we lost half a second or 6 or 7 tenths. Aaron was on my rear bumper, but he kept it clean, so it was okay.
Well, in the end, you're able to keep it clean, and like you say, I mean, we saw the slight contact between yourself and Aaron, and as you mentioned there, we didn't think it looked malicious at all, just an innocent thing that happens at turn 1, but a return to the podium, and with it, a great haul of points. It means your fight for the championship title, or at least for second place, is definitely back on. How do you feel the first half of your season has gone now that we've completed round 5?
It started okay, but I haven't, like I said, I'm struggling with the car, getting comfortable in the car. So 1 lap pace is okay, but I'm struggling with consistency and getting used to the ABS. I'm using longer times than some of the other drivers, so I just have to take my time and keep driving it. Hopefully get better after some time, or by the end of the season at least.
Well, we've still got plenty of rounds to go, to be fair, and you never know, we might see you really come alive as the season goes on. Up next, of course, is Imola in a week's time. Is it a circuit you enjoy?
In the old car, yeah. I'm a bit unsure in the new one how the front is going to behave with the pogo front we have now. If the curbs aren't that bad and you don't have to do an e-sport line through T1, T2, I think it's okay. It's a popular pickup track, so it should be great fun.
Well, we look forward to seeing you potentially having fun at Imola, and whether you can make your way back onto the podium once again there. But Mats, as I get ready to let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a mention to or a shout out to on the broadcast?
No, thank you, Paul, for having a great broadcast. And thank you to the organizers, Race by Wire, and my teammates who keep on pushing, keep on training, and keeping me motivated for each race.
All fair play, Matt. Well, I can tell you one thing. We need to give you a big thank you for joining me in the interview room. The points are coming. The results are gradually coming as well. We look forward to seeing plenty more from yourself at Imola in a week's time. But until then, my friend, have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you. You as well, Paul.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from Mats Strand, talking about there, he feels as though he's got the 1 lap pace, or he's gradually getting the 1 lap pace in the new Porsche Cup car. But the longer term race pace is still something he needs to work on, and perhaps that has been revealed a little bit as the season's gone on. Today, however, a very different style of circuit, where staying in the tow is the most paramount point, and well, Matt's definitely seemed to be in his comfort zone racing around here. He did feel as though there was a bit more pace to be had in qualifying, but in the end, a battle for 3rd and 4th in the sprint saw him finish in 4th place, and more in the feature race. Talking about there the importance of patience, something that he and his teammate Oscar have had in huge quantities, but also the fact being alert to Aaron Herbert, who would never go away. And well, he was chuckling there as we said to him about the fact that Aaron Herbert just kept coming back, including that big dive into turn 1 towards the end of the race. But still, enjoying picking his way past the Silvers and working with his teammate to make sure that they finish together at 1-2. And well, for Mats Strand, he goes into the second half of the season, knowing there's still more work to be done, but maybe there'll be some fun to be had at Imola in a week's time. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we've got more interviews to come. We'll be right back for our next interviewee. And well, we maintain the theme of the Ice Cold Racing by Maxim Racing Team, ladies and gentlemen, because we've spoken to what was your second place man in the feature race. Let's speak to your race winner, and in fact, back-to-back race winner today. Joining me now is Oscar Berntsson. Oscar, good evening to you, and well, it's been some time, but you finally scored the big 40 once again. Pole position and both race wins. I mean, a perfect way to end the first half of the season.
Yeah, was a good day if we look at the results. But I was still not really happy with my driving. But I mean, with the results, getting pole, P1 and P1 in race 2, I can't really complain. So I'm pretty happy with that.
Oh, indeed, you've got to be happy with that. I mean, I know you're always chasing faster times out there, but speaking of qualifying, well, whereas everyone else was separated by hundredths, not tenths, you meanwhile were the best part of several tenths ahead of the field. An impressive qualifying lap.
Yeah, I set a really good first lap. Since we have 4 laps, the first lap is really just a banker. But I managed to set that like really good. So I had the backup to push like really hard on the other laps. So I did that off track 2 times and barely improved on the last lap. So quali could have gone better, but it was pole with a few tenths, so I'm not complaining.
Oh, indeed, can't complain at that. And in race number 1, we did see you put together a very strong performance, albeit as the race went on, it has to be said that you did have Patrick Falconer for close company, and the two of you swapped back and forth in the early stages. I have to ask, at what point did it go from the two of you just swapping the lead to you wanted the lead and you were never going to let it go?
I was during the first 2 laps. I was I don't know, corner 10. I don't know the name of it, but I was hitting that anti-curb on the inside there, and the fact that I wasn't in the wall and totally blind the car is just amazing. I was so sideways and so full opposite lock. So that was a few mistakes from me, which made him go past me. Then I called myself pretty good. Took the lead again. Got a pretty good gap, and then on the second last lap, I was starting to relax a bit, think about the second race on how you're gonna manage to survive turn 1, and then I got a slowdown, so I lost the lead. So then it was pretty stressful to try and get the lead again. So I mean, I got a win in race 1, but I'm not happy with my driving. It was a lot of stupid mistakes, basically.
Oh, that's absolutely fair, and appreciate you giving us the recap then. We did catch that slowdown, of course, and, well, it did bring you back together, but you're able to make it happen. And then in the feature race, starting 10th, we saw you quite quickly make your way up the order, but into a 7-car fight for the win. I mean, you probably couldn't take your foot off the gas. You probably couldn't relax at all.
No, today was the second race was really, really fun. It was just amazing. I felt that the racing was pretty clean. There was some unfortunate stuff with, for example, Andy Jones, who we collided on the, I think, third last lap. But it was basically it, if I remember it right. It was really good racing. Or well, Josh did accidentally bump me, but he showed good sportsmanship and let me by after that. So it was good, clean racing, and yeah, the last 3 laps was hectic, and there was not really any big team orders between me and Mats, so we never knew if we're gonna dive on each other. So it was good fun.
Oh, 100%. I did ask Mats this only months ago, but I've got to ask yourself as well. Obviously, you were talking there about Josh Boot and a little bit of contact. But speaking of the silver drivers, particularly Aaron Herbert, we saw him on several occasions force his way back into the lead of the race. He really wanted the overall win as well as the silver win. I mean, from your perspective, were you in a bit of a mindset of, why does he keep coming back? He's got the silver leads all to himself. Can he not just let me go?
Well, in one way, you see it in that point. Um, like, come on, we're not fighting for the same thing. Just let me go. But I can also understand him. Uh, the thing of winning something by the results, like, oh yeah, I'm a lower class, so I win, but I'm not winning overall. And the feeling of winning overall, being the best of everyone, is just something completely different. So I don't blame him for actually trying to go for the win. I think that's just fair, and he have all the rights to do it.
Oh, 100%. I'm with you on that. And I think he'll be absolutely pleased to hear that because it led to some great fighting at the end and all the fun, like you said. But we come to the end of the first half of the season, and with 2 wins today, it means you now have a commanding lead in the Gold Class Championship. 5 more rounds to go. Are you feeling confident?
It's starting to be a pretty good gap. I know that I will miss a round. I will miss Daytona, so I have to take my drop week then. So that's a bit of that's not good for me. I don't have like the backup to crash. I don't have the background to take then. I have to always get the points. So that's something I'm really always thinking about when I'm racing. But it's a good lead, and I hope I can take it to the end.
Oh, fair play. And, well, we'll miss you at Daytona, and that's going to be a sad day not to see you out there. But still, we look forward to when you are out on circuit. Speaking of which, Imola is next. You said that you like Monza. Do you like Imola as well?
I haven't actually. I liked it in the old pickup. It was pretty fun. It was pretty technical. But with the suspension of the new pickup, with the big anti-curbs and sausage curbs, I'm a bit afraid. But and it's also gonna be a bit of a off-track heaven. You will the second heat. You will have to watch your incident points because I'm sure there actually will be some people getting black flagged for having too many incident points because it's really easy to get that on the track. But I'm feeling positive and I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I'm loving the positivity, and we look forward to seeing you out there in a week's time. But just as we get ready to let you go, Oscar, as always, I have to ask, is there anyone you'd like to give a mention or a thank you to tonight?
Yeah, like usual, to the team, to my parents, to yeah, for being supporting and yeah, being lovely people in my life.
Oh, fantastic. Well, Oscar, we'll leave it there for now. It's been an absolute blast to have you join me in the interview room this evening. A great result, but always chasing more, no doubt about it. We'll see you at Imola to see whether you can stay clear of those pesky track limits. But until then, my friend, have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from Oscar Berntsson, and really insightful there to hear his perspective on the fact that, yes, he's happy with the maximum point score today of 40, but he knows that in the sprint race, he relaxed too much, and when he did, he put unnecessary stress on himself, particularly that slowdown towards the end. And it really gives you an insight into the minds there of our Gold Championship leader and the fact that even when he snatches all the points fairly and does it with aplomb, he's still thinking, I can do better than this. And well, it's understandable now, a bit of mental pressure perhaps there, in the fact he's revealed he's not going to be able to make Daytona in round number 7, so therefore he knows that's his drop score for the season, and he's got to make sure he doesn't drop any points beyond the ones he cannot take. That may just open the doorway to some other drivers right now thinking to themselves, you know what, perhaps it's time to put some more pressure on. But to be fair, how can you pressure a man who is proven to be the fastest in qualifying and one of the fastest in the races? Well, answer on the postcard, ladies and gentlemen, because Oscar Berntsson right now, the confidence is growing, and at Imola, can he skyrocket with that confidence? We'll have to see. But with that, I believe we've got one more interview to come this evening. Who's it going to be with? We'll be right back to find out. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we come to our final interview of the evening, and joining me now from the silver class is none other than Emma Marioun. Good evening to you, Emma, and well, what a day of racing for yourself. The feature race, perhaps not great, but qualifying and the sprint, #1 in the silver class. Plenty of points to take away from today, surely.
Yep. Hello, Paul. It was a great qualifying session and a great hit. Unfortunately, the reverse grid order for feature race always is a cause of some silliness, let's say. Well, qualifying was amazing. Confident in the car. Got some 2 pretty competitive laps early on. Then the heat was just managing the goals passing by, trying to not let the other silvers close too much in. Well, for the feature race, I was managing again. Didn't have quite the start I wanted, but well, it was still a top 10 overall, I think. But then a goal driver tried sending a dummy or something into turn 4, and completely destroyed my performance because he broke my bumper. And you know, in this car, in this type of track, it is pretty tough when you got some damage. So I was kind of a sitting duck all race. Then I had an unfortunate moment with another silver driver who, not clearly not on purpose, pushed me off into, well, out of turn 2, and that gave me some more damage. But then I got P6, so damage limitations for being pole position and P1. Some pretty valuable points considering Christer is unfortunately sick, so we didn't have the championship leader. I really hope he gets well soon, and I hope to see him on track in Imola. So, well, can't say it's been a bad weekend, can I?
No, very true. You can't say it's been too bad. Although, just on that, I have to ask, this championship lead in the silver class, we talked about it at the start of today's broadcast. It seems to be nobody wants to be the silver championship leader. I don't mean that intentionally. I'm sure you and everyone does. But as soon as somebody takes the lead of the championship, the next round, they're either not able to make it, or alternatively, they have a disaster round. Are you feeling right now, perhaps actually it's probably better to be second in the championship until the final round?
Well, I wouldn't be able to tell you because I've never led the championship, actually. I was always between P2 and P6. Well, I think it's down to coincidence, really, because silver class is being really lackluster. You know, the crashes, the damage, the battle of the goals. So you get lucky one weekend and you go to the top. Then you get unlucky the other and you go down positions, like happened to me in Interlagos. I do think Glenn should be back in the lead now, or Aaron. So, well, we're gonna have to see what they do. I hope to be in the top 3 or top 4.
Oh, 100%. You're spot on there. It is provisionally at the moment Glenn Gondoliers ahead of Adam Klanvik, then Aaron Herbert and yourself, but it is still looking very tight. But coming from then the championship points to today, let's talk about that qualifying lap. Second overall, Oscar Berntsson was several tenths faster, but you were at the head of a pack whereby, just to put it in context here, well, with yourself, all the way through to none other than what was, I do believe, Alan McCain in 16th place, there was a second separating 15 cars. You were at the head of it. I mean, it must feel special to do that at a home circuit.
Yeah, I really wanted to take P1 in at least one of the sessions. So I went and did 3 of them. Free practice, qualifying, and the heat. Almost got a clean sweep. Unfortunately, the feature was unlucky, as I said. Well, it is the second week in a row that me and Oscar won 2 in qualifying. So I don't know what we can take from that. I think especially in silver though, because Oscar is just so much far ahead. It's about not really your pace, but your ability to get some good laps early on. Because if you get a really competitive time in the first or second or third lap, then you're not really stressed in the other last 2. And you can kind of take some more risks or try something different or push the car some more.
Well, I appreciate the insights there with regards to your qualifying approach. Indeed, a brilliant way. And like you say, a bit of an observation there, the fact that yourself and Oscar Berntsson won 2 in the qualifying sessions for the last couple of rounds. And in the race, of course, you mentioned there about balancing the gold drivers around you and making sure the silvers didn't catch up. I mean, how easy is that to do, given the fact that in the end, the more you fall back down the order behind the gold drives, the silvers are going to catch up at some point, surely.
Well, yeah, they are, but you always gotta think about, as I said after Atlanta, the fact that this rule about the top 10 being reversed, we can think what we want about it, but well, it is there. So the more you fall back, the better you're gonna start in the future race. The problem with the goals is you have the usual 4, 5 really clean, really fast goals that I enjoy having around me. Then there is some other goals which are having either their best weekend of the championship, or they are finding themselves to be there for some other reasons, like the crashes today. And they do some dangerous moves, some contact, because they think they don't know I'm gonna let them by. I'm never gonna fight a gold unless there is a silver very close by. Just strategy. And when they do those moves, they either risk damaging your car as a silver and ruining your race, or they risk causing some silliness overall. So this is really down to who you have around, and you gotta know the people you're racing, because depends on who you're racing, you gotta approach them differently.
Oh, 100%. And, well, that's a fair point to say you've got to know who you're racing around, but still, nothing to take away from a great result in the sprint. The win, the feature, it didn't work out as you explained early on, but we look ahead now, of course, to the second half of the season. Chasing after the championship, it's still very close in the silver class. Up next is another home circuit, Imola. How are you feeling for that?
Well, with how this car is built, really bouncy suspensions, I think a lot of it's got to do with the setup you run and how much practice you do. There are some corners that are gonna be really, really risky in this car. I honestly plan to practice a lot, as always, and whoever's my fan, I don't know if I have any, I hope to give them another home race win.
Oh, well, we'll definitely hold you to that. And I'm sure anyone tuning you on it will be looking forward to see whether you can make it another home race win, if not both, next week. But as we get ready to let you go, Emma, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to on the broadcast?
Yep, this week it has got to be John, my race engineer. What a setup he made for me. That setup, it was so good. I was so confident. It was pretty fast as well, good on curbs. Everything worked in the car, and it's really rare that in this car everything feels like it's working. So big thanks to him. Couldn't have done it without his setup.
Oh, absolutely fair. And well, an absolutely brilliant setup from your engineer, John. And in the end, a brilliant set of driving from yourself, Emma. We'll leave it there. But congratulations today on a solid set of performances, particularly in qualifying and the sprint race. We'll see you at Imola to see whether you can make a home victory come true again. But until then, have a lovely rest of your evening, my friend.
You too, Polish.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from Emma Ryu, our silver class driver today, who understandably a bit frustrated with how the feature race went, and unfortunately the loss of some bodywork early on have really cost her the ability to be able to come back through the field. However, also talking about some of the positives there, really happy with the qualifying points to be second overall, and right now really leading the way on one lap pace in the silver class. And talking about there, the intrigue with the fact, of course, that Oscar Berntsson and herself line up on that front row of the grid now for 2 weeks in a row, and well, might be a sign of the way the qualifying pace is going. But in the races, a win in the sprint, trying to tactically manage making sure that the gold drives got them through, and meanwhile the silvers could not catch up too quickly, and therefore that was the key for the AR by the organisation trying to make that win happen. But sadly, it didn't work in the feature. But looking ahead to the championship, of course, yet to lead the championship all the way through since the very start. But we did talk a little bit there about, of course, the fact the championship keeps swinging back and forth, and Ryu goes into the second half in fourth place, but knowing it's all still wide open and hunting then for a win or two at Imola. But will she be able to make it happen? We'll see then, ladies and gentlemen, as we wrap up our interviews. But as we do, let's give you a recap of who we've interviewed today. And well, we had 3 interviews today, not quite 4, but 3. And well, we got the chance to speak to 2 of our gold class drivers, both from Ice Cold Racing powered by Maxim Racing. Starting off, of course, with Mats Strand, who returned to the podium in the feature race today after he was off the podium at Road Atlanta, but put together 2 solid races, albeit feeling as though he's still trying to find the pace in the car, particularly over the longer race distance, and it's something he needs to work on. Meanwhile, we then spoke to his teammate and Gold Championship leader, whose lead is now extended, Oscar Berntsson, making it the perfect day today. Albeit, that's what the headlines would say, but in his mind, it wasn't perfect. Key mistakes in the sprint race that he needs to iron out, but still, he has that commanding lead, and he's looking forward to the rounds ahead. And then we did hear to Energise, of course, the ER by the organisation Silver Class driver, who would say a degree of frustration with how the feature went, but to be fair, also plenty of positives for qualifying in the sprint race, and knowing that the Silver Championship is still very much open for somebody to take control of, but can she take control of it next time? Well, a huge thank you to all 3 of our drivers for joining me for an interview after today's racing, and we look forward to plenty more conversations with our drivers as the season goes on. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to get on the grid or just know more about Race by Wire, we definitely recommend you get in touch with us via our official Discord, and that being using the invite link available on screen. And if you do use that link, well, of course, you'll get to the beating heart of the community, and well, there's never been a better time to get on the grid with Race by Wire as we continue to grow, with 2026 really being our foundation year. We'd like to also say a huge thank you to our series sponsor at this time, our title sponsor for the Race by Wire Porsche Cup, and that is Energise Virtual Solutions. And do remember, Energise Virtual Solutions is a software consultancy whose aim is to meet the demands of bespoke product services and development. Where it's a completely new project or consultancy assistance on existing projects, Energise Virtual Solutions will be working alongside you every step of the way. So if you'd like to know more, head to energisevirtual.com today and learn how they can help you out with your projects. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, well, we're halfway through the season, and it's time for a quick recap then of the standings after what has been an incredible opening 5 rounds. And well, we're going to get that recap on screen very shortly for you. Keep in mind that these are all the provisional standings after what is 5 rounds. They're subject to stewards' inquiries from this round, but we start off, of course, with the Gold Drivers' Championship standings. And as we can see, Oscar Berntsson ahead of his teammate Mats Strand, the gap standing at a grand total of 26 points. And right now, can anybody slow Oscar Berntsson down other than himself? Well, that's what we'll have to see. With 7 out of 10 wins, the man's record is very impressive. However, Mats Strand has one of the other wins there, but right now continuing to fight with the Porsche that he's getting to grips with gradually, and he knows that he needs every point. With Kim Andre Bjørklund today, when he fought in the mid-pack, it wasn't quite on the podium, particularly in the feature race, but the Sim Racing Norway driver realising as well there's a fight definitely on for second if it's not for the championship lead. In fourth is Richard Simnor, falling down today after a bit of difficulty in both races. However, the DCW Racing Blue Dry cannot be ruled out from the top 3, as right now he wants to make sure he doesn't slip backwards quickly to Josh Boot, the Atomic Esports driver, who right now definitely getting his fangs in, and here at Monza showing that he's not just here to make up the top 10, he's going for a top 3 as well. Andy Jones sits in 6th place for DCW Racing Blue, an 8-point distance behind, but ahead of Mikey Pollard, who wasn't on the grid today, and the Film BIL driver being followed up by Paddy Falconer, Joe Newman, and Nick Clibbins, who are all hunting down spots towards the top 5, or at least at the bottom end of the top 10. Daniel Shilcock is best dressed in 11th place, and it's Simon Bamber, Ryan Davies, Jack Atkinson, Gavin Petty, Casper Tunstead, Andy Archer, and Helder Gonzalez, who round off the gold standings. As for the silver class, meanwhile, well, we have a runaway leader in the gold class. In the silvers, anybody's going to be the leader at this rate, and Glenn Gondoliers has returned to the top after 2 very impressive races, no doubt about it, but he knows for all the hype around his performances today, he's also got to keep sight of the fact that Adam Klanvik is now only 8 points behind, and drop scores may just become a very big factor as this season goes on. Klanvik is only 3 points ahead of Aaron Herbert, who would be ahead of him if it were not for the 6 penalty points he's picked up, and Herbert's performances today definitely showing that right now the Drive Lounge Racing driver is on a charge and is not at his peak yet. Emma as well, 9 that results have not gone her way, and 10 penalty points as well, but only 15 points behind the championship leader, and a further 17 ahead of Chris Alzoy. And with the Tractics Racing driver missing the racing today, well, understandably, he'll be back next time out with a vengeance. Ollie Pimley, best of the rest outside the top 5 in 6th place then, ahead of Chris Cole, with the HRT Nexus Racing driver Matt Sparrow missing this round and the next one, and I get the feeling he's really chomping at the bit to be back on the grid sooner rather than later, and completing the top 10. It's Alan McCain for RS Esports and Dan Biggerdike for DCW Zoe Racing Red, who enjoyed some good points performances today. Berntsson 12 sits in 11th ahead of Matty Wild, with Ben Seaver and Marc Collicott and Alexandre Longjou completing the top 15. And behind the Frenchman for Blue Mercure Racing, it's Nido Brom, Rob Van Hout, David Dam, Nicholas Gronstrom, Mirzam Yutsupov, Timo Gertner, and Fabrizio Penzo, who complete the silver standings. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, well, we've taken a look at the standings, we've wrapped everything up, and where do we head to next? Well, here's, of course, to none other than the Imola Grand Prix circuit for round number 6. And in a week's time, on Wednesday the 4th of February 2026, will we see a further reshuffle of the standings, because in the gold class, it's Oscar Berntsson who leads the way and may be starting to become slightly untouchable, whereas in the silver class, nobody is able to stay on top for at least one round. Will we see it all shuffled up again? We'll come tune in next time to find out how the story continues as we roar away into the second half of the season. But until then, we've been Raced by Wire, and I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh. You've been tuning into a Paul Walsh production. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay on track. Good night.